Chapter 42. Lei Xingfeng understood the little girl's feelings. In the past few years, when the three of them ate, they always gave in to each other. They never had enough to eat, especially Lei Xingfeng. He had just reached the stage where he could eat. His appetite was huge, and it was normal for him to go hungry. Thunderstorm also didn't feel good. He gently patted Xan Yao's head and sighed. "It's been hard on you." Xan Yao said, "Yi, as long as the meat is still there, there's nothing to be afraid of." In her eyes, meat and food were the most important. Ever since she was old enough to understand things, she had been the one to take care of and collect food during the winter every year. She really valued it very much. Other things were fine, but food was definitely the #1 priority in her heart. San Yu said, "Afeng, you are the main hunter. Those hunters from Lead Eagle. How should we deal with them?" Lei Xingfeng said, "You guys decide. Follow the majority's opinion." San Yu said, "Everyone has two ideas. One is to let Lead Eagles use their prey to exchange for people, and the other is to kill them all so that they won't continue to harass us in the future. We can also take over their hunting grounds." Lei Xingfeng didn't mind. "You guys decide. Maybe when winter ends, we will leave Tiger Cliff Castle." Ever since he saw Thunderstorm's power, San Yu knew that this family wouldn't stay in Tiger Cliff Castle for long. But he didn't expect them to leave so soon. He laughed bitterly and said, "Okay, the outside world is your world. A small castle like Tiger Cliff Castle can't keep you. I just hope that when you have time, you can come back and visit." Thunderstorm said, "You don't have to worry. After we leave, we will give Tiger Cliff Castle an explanation. Don't worry, no one will dare to mess with you." San Yu's face lit up. Of course, he knew how serious the old man's words were. He regretted that when the old man's family was in trouble, he didn't help them more, so he was embarrassed to ask for more. Thunderstorm said, "I suggest that we kill Lead Eagle's people. Leaving them alive is a disaster." His true nature was exposed. San Yu nodded seriously. "We will consider it carefully. Maybe it's better to kill them, but there are many people who want to exchange for food." Thunderstorm said, "You guys decide. I'm just giving my own suggestion. You don't have to care." He didn't care about the life and death of the hunters. He had some feelings for Tiger Cliff Castle, but it wasn't deep. 10 days later, Hong Chun brought his disciple, a small clearing team, 10,000 masters, and a large amount of food. These days, no matter if it was Thunderstorm or Lei Xingfeng, they were all training hard. Especially Lei Xingfeng, who was about to become a mill wheel master. But under his grandfather's advice, he tried to control it. He only kept refining the Lei Lunli in his body, hoping to build a good foundation. This was a problem that geniuses had. If they progressed too quickly, their foundation would not be stable. With the guidance of Thunderstorm, Lei Xingfeng of course wouldn't make such a low-level mistake. Xan Yao was busy organizing the food. She was very happy. With so much food, although she couldn't eat as much as she wanted, at least she wouldn't have to go hungry this winter. But very quickly, she encountered a serious situation. The old man used to eat very little food, but after recovering, his appetite increased sharply. At first, it was just 1 or 2 pieces of meat. But in the past few days, Xan Yao found that Ye's appetite had become frightening. Originally, Lei Xingfeng's appetite was the biggest in the family. Adding an Yi, Xan Yao counted with her fingers and found that the food they stored wasn't enough to last them through the winter. Her small face fell. Ye's appetite was even bigger than Lei Xingfeng's. In one meal, even if Lei Xingfeng and Xan Yao combined, they wouldn't eat as much as Yi. Lei Xingfeng saw Xan Yao frowning and counting with her fingers. He asked curiously, "Yao Yao, what's wrong? Does it count?" When Xan Yao was 4 years old, he had already taught her simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Xan Yao bit her fingers and said with a frown, "Brother, we don't have enough food for the winter. What should I do?" "AI." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. He gently rubbed her little head. Xan Yao said angrily, "I'm worried to death." "Brother, you're still laughing." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "It's okay, Yao Yao. If we don't have enough food, I'll go hunting. And you can also go hunting. Winter can't stop us anymore, hee hee." In the past, when it was winter, they were helpless because they didn't have a strength. Now that it was winter, they weren't afraid. Hunters couldn't go hunting, but that didn't mean they couldn't. Xi and Yao woke up and couldn't help but laugh. That's good. I was worried that we wouldn't have enough food and would starve again. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but feel heartache. A small child was already worried about the food at home. He said, "You won't starve again, brother promises." At this time, Hong Chun brought people into the small courtyard. He raised his voice and said, "Senior, Junior Hong Chun is here to greet you." The old man, Thunderstorm, brought Lei Xingfeng and Xi and Yao out of the small house. He said, "What are you doing here?" Hong Chun said, "I'm here to deliver food and a letter from the great elder to Senior." The old man, Thunderstorm, nodded. He took a leather scroll and said, "The small house is narrow. You can stay in the courtyard." Hong Chun respectfully nodded and said, "Put the things in the courtyard." This group of people all have a lunchong space. Of course, according to their cultivation, the size of their lunchong space is different. There are all kinds of cured meat and dried meat. There are also rare rice and noodles. There are all kinds of seasonings and also large amounts of dried vegetables and fruits. Seeing the food, Xen Yao's eyes lit up. She said, "Is this for us?" Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. Thinking back to his previous life, the saying that girls should be raised well was true. Just some food was enough to attract Xen Yao. She didn't even know that she was cheated. Hong Chen said, "Yes, it's all for you." "All right, I have a bag of things for you." He took out a bag made of rattan and passed it to Xen Yao. Xen Yao asked curiously, "What is it?" Hong Chun smiled. "It's candies from the caravan outside. There are also some small toys." Xen Yao had never seen candies before. Her sweet things were limited to all kinds of ripe wild fruits. She said, "Candies? What is it?" Lei Xingfeng sighed in his heart. He went forward and took the rattan bag. After opening it, there were all kinds of bags made of bee's skin. He opened one of them and saw very primitive candies. He didn't know what they were made of. There was a layer of icing on top. They were all the size of finger. The candies didn't have any packaging. He took out one and let Xen Yao open her mouth. He put the candy in her mouth and said, "Eat, candies are sweet." Xen Yao's mouth moved and her eyes curved. This was a taste she had never tasted before. She grabbed the rattan bag like it was a treasure. She said, "Delicious, delicious. Thank you, Grandpa." She was very polite. She knew that Hong Chun gave it to her. Hong Chun secretly glanced at the old man. He saw a gratified smile on the old man's face. He knew that he did the right thing. Instead of kissing the old man's ass, it was better to kiss the ass of a child. The old man would definitely appreciate it. As expected, the old man's words were much gentler. Inside the rattan bag, there were not only candies, but also many candied fruits. There were even rare floral fabrics and satin. These were definitely brought by the outer sect caravan. The mountains didn't produce cloth. The most they had in the mountains was fur. The cloth and satin were all brought by the outer sect caravan. The price was definitely expensive. Xen Yao placed the bag like it was a treasure. She took out a bag of candies and hurriedly walked out. She said, "Brother, I'm going to Sister Xiang's house." After getting good things, one should always share it with a good friend. Lei Xingfeng agreed. He knew that the little girl was going to show off her treasure. In the past, it was always others who gave her food. Now that there was something good, of course she would take it out at the first opportunity. The old man opened the scroll and looked at it. He said, "Shi Quan invited us to Hong Tong?" Hong Chun said, "Yes, the great elder ordered us to pay respects to the elder along the way." The old man pondered for a moment and said, "A phone, do you want to go?" Lei Xingfeng said, "If we go, will we still come back?" The old man smiled and said, "Of course we won't come back. Directly going out from Hong Tong is more convenient." Lei Xingfeng lived in Tiger Cliff Castle and was really annoyed. He really wanted to see what this world was like. He nodded and said, "That's good too. Let's go." The old man nodded and said, "My grandson agreed to go. And then let's go. It's been a long time since I've seen a little friend. It's good to go and see." Hong Chen secretly wiped his sweat. For the great elder to be called a little friend, this was too damn crazy. At the same time, he let out a big sigh of relief. The great elder had personally told him that no matter what, he had to invite the old man to Hong Tong. In his words, there seemed to be some kind of urgency. He also told him that if he succeeded in inviting the elder, then he might be able to enter the inner sect. This was the reason why he was so nervous. Lei Xingfeng asked people to find Hu Tsangyu and arrange accommodation for Hong Chun and the others. His family's little house was unable to accommodate so many people. In a few days, Lei Xingfeng and his family were busy saying goodbye to the people they were familiar with in Tiger Cliff Castle. They also collected food and distributed it to their close friends and those who had helped them in the past. They all received quite a few gifts. Hong Chun also promised that in the future, the 100 Village would arrange for some experts to guard Tiger Cliff Castle. As for lead eagles, they would arrange for people to move all of them away. After everything was settled, Lei Xingfeng and his family left Tiger Cliff Castle with Hong Chun and the others. Lei Xingfeng walked out from the hanging basket of the castle. He looked up at the top of the cliff and thought, I don't know if I'll come back in the future. Chapter 43. Hong Tong was a medium-sized force in this wilderness. It had a city and a few hundred human residences. It occupied an area of about 40,000 kilometers. This land was very big, but the population was very small. At most, there were a few million people. The environment was very bad, and there were a lot of barbarian settlements in the territory. Tiger Cliff Castle, Lead Eagle, and other similar hunters' residences could be found in this area. Normally, these hunters' residences could be controlled within a radius of 100 kilometers. Beyond that, they couldn't do anything. Within Hong Tong's territory, there were about 7,000 to 8,000 hunters' residences. Hong Tong's power had the authority of an emperor in this land. Life and death were all decided by them. Hong Tong was divided into the inner and outer sect. The outer sect had the most 100 Lun masters, 1,000 Lun masters, and 1 Lun Shi. Mill wheel masters could already guard an area. As for the first ring body and true mill wheel masters, they were all high-level fighters in the outer sect. The inner sect mostly nurtured disciples and had the authority to manage Hong Tong. Among the 40,000 square kilometers, Hong Tong City was the only city. All the administrative organs of Hong Tong City were located in Hong Tong City. This was also the first city that Lei Xingfeng had seen in his life. Standing in front of the 100 Zhanghai city wall, Lei Xingfeng and Xian Yao raised their heads. Xian Yao said, "Brother, what is this? It's even higher than our Tiger Cliff Castle's cliff." Lei Xingfeng said, "This should be the city wall." "What the hell? Why is the city wall so high?" The old man, Thunderstorm, said, "That's because of the war with the barbarians. Without the protection of the city wall, it would be hard to defend against the barbarians' attacks." The three of them braved the heavy snow to come to Hong Tong. Accompanying them was Hong Chun and his disciple, as well as a team of 20,000 Lun masters. This time, they even arranged for 2 giant camel beasts. This was the first time Lei Xingfeng had seen them. They looked like the rhinoceros from his previous life, but the size was completely different. The camel beast was 8 meters long and 3 meters tall. It had broad shoulders and a thick back. It had great strength, but its personality was very gentle. The hunchback beast had a compartment on its back that could carry things and people. This kind of hunchback beast was very precious and could only be owned by rich and powerful people. From Tiger Cliff Castle to Hong Tong City, the journey took about 17 days. The speed of the camel beast was quite good, and they arrived at Hong Tong City without any twists and turns. The bluestone walls, tall city gates, and teams of patrolling 100 Lun masters. The security at the entrance was very strict. Luckily, they had Hong Chun, Hong Tong's outer sect elder, so they did not waste too much time at the city gates. 2 camel beasts and a team of 1,000 Lun masters entered the city. After entering the city, Lei Xingfeng and Xian Yao's eyes were not enough to take in everything. This city was abnormally prosperous. One must know that there was only one city of 40,000 square kilometers. Large caravans brought large amounts of goods here, and then countless small caravans transported them in all directions. This was the gathering place of commerce and the storage place of goods. Lei Xingfeng found it hard to adapt to so many people in such a short time, not to mention Xi and Yao. The little girl had never seen such a dense crowd before. Actually, Lei Xingfeng had seen crowds that were many times denser than this in his previous life. It was just that after living here for so long, he was used to seeing small numbers of people. Suddenly seeing so many people, he was not used to it. However, he quickly adjusted. Countless stalls were set up on the side of the road. Walking along the road, there were all kinds of people and all kinds of goods placed on long tables. Every stall had a large animal skin awning. However, this was not to shade the sun, but to block the snow. There was still light snow falling from the sky. Every stall had a large copper basin with burning red charcoal. Shouting, bargaining noises, the heat from the charcoal fire, and the rising white fog. The whole street was bustling. The wide bluestone paved road was bustling with people and cars. Lei Xingfeng's group was very eye-catching because they had two very precious camel beasts. This kind of camel beast was something that only rich people could afford. It was a symbol of status. There were many people on the road, so the group's walking speed naturally slowed down. Lei Xingfeng and Xi Yao had already come out of the camel carriage. The two of them held hands and followed the old man Thunderstorm. The old man sighed with emotion. A small border city is still so enchanting. Lei Xingfeng suddenly opened his eyes wide and said in surprise, "Barbarians? Barbarians." The old man said, "Don't be surprised, barbarians can also come to Hong Tong City." Lei Xingfeng did not understand. Aren't barbarians and us mortal enemies? Why would they dare to come to our city? Hong Chen smiled and explained, "What's so strange about it? In the wild, of course you die and I live, but you must know that barbarians also produce a lot of things that those big merchants need. Also, the prey that they bring are better and more precious. They have no use for it in their hands, so they come to trade for some daily necessities." Lei Xingfeng suddenly remembered the time when they were fighting with the barbarians. They had steel spears in their hands. "Don't tell me that they also trade weapons with them?" Hong Chen said. "Of course they also trade weapons. However, to trade for a steel spear, they need to take out a lot of things. Compared to us, it is at least 3 or even 4 times more expensive." Lei Xingfeng said, "What if the barbarians kill people in the city?" Hong Chen smiled. "They won't. Look beside the barbarians. They are all 100 Lun masters and 1,000 Lun masters. With them watching, the barbarians won't dare to do anything." Then he added, "Not just any barbarian can come. Only barbarians from a dozen big tribes have the qualifications. They already have an agreement. Fighting with the barbarians is normal. Trading with them is also normal. Don't be too surprised. There are also powerful experts among the barbarians." A few barbarians drove a few bighorn bulls past Lei Xingfeng's group. The bighorn bulls were gentle and were completely different from barbarian bulls. They were good animals used by humans and barbarians to carry goods and pull carts. On the backs of those few bighorn bulls were large amounts of fur and leather bags. No one knew what was in the leather bags. These barbarians were slightly different from the ones Lei Xingfeng had seen before. They were dressed more like humans. Of course, they were still tall and strong. The smell of blood was still very strong. Their expressions were rather arrogant. Each of them curled their lips and slanted their eyes. They had an expression that said, "You are weak, I am strong." Lei Xingfeng could not help but say, "These barbarians are really asking for a beating." Hong Chen said, "It is very normal. In the wild, they are top-class hunters. Those who do not train would not be able to beat them. It is normal for them to be arrogant. They are familiar barbarians, which is already much better than the raw barbarians." This was the first time Lei Xingfeng had heard of familiar barbarians. He said, "Familiar barbarians? Raw barbarians?" Yin Yin rolled her eyes and said, "Raw barbarians are even more barbaric and cannot communicate with us. Familiar barbarians can communicate with us and have a lot of interactions. Of course, in the wild, no matter if they're familiar or raw barbarians, just kill them. They will not be polite to us either." Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood. Humans needed the barbarians to harvest their special products. The barbarians also needed all kinds of daily necessities. When the two came into contact, that was why he saw the barbarians in Hong Tong City. After a few turns, the number of people on the street gradually decreased. Lei Xingfeng found that they had already reached the residential area. There were no more street vendors on the side of the street. Instead, there were many small shops along the street. Following the street, they passed through an arched door. At the door stood a few hundred Luan masters. Some of the 1,000 Luan masters in the group came forward. After saying a few words, they let them pass. Hong Chen explained. This is considered to be the inner sect of Hong Tong. Lei Xingfeng found that there were many children on the road. Most of them were around 13 or 14 years old. Hong Chen, a dignified outer sect elder, became a professional commentator. He said, "These children are all preparatory disciples. Once they reach 16 years old, they can start training. At this time, they are all in the learning phase. Of course, they have all been tested before. They all have the potential and aptitude for training. This batch of disciples have better aptitudes, so they're learning in the inner sect. Our outer sect also has many preparatory disciples. Every year, we accept many disciples." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "You came to Tiger Cliff Castle to let me come and learn?" Hong Chen laughed bitterly. "You have your seniors to teach you. Of course, you don't need to come here to learn. From the beginning, I didn't have any bad intentions." He found a chance to explain himself, afraid that he would leave a bad impression on this family. Small buildings were hidden in the white snow. Very quickly, they came to a stone building. This was a 2-story stone building. The building style was very sturdy. It was a square building with a large stone structure. There were a few servants at the door. Hong Chen said, "This is the guest room used to receive important guests. Seniors, you will stay here today." Thunderstorm nodded. "Okay, let's settle down first." Hong Chen let the servants come over to take the luggage. Hong Chen and Yin personally brought them in. As he walked, he said, "There is a small market behind. It is filled with people from the inner sect. There are many good things. If you want to go, just call a servant to bring you there." This was a large suite. There were 3 rooms and a large living room. The room was very warm. It was much better than Lei Xingfeng's home in Tiger Cliff Castle. Here, Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find glass windows, so the room was very bright. The living room was furnished with a full set of furniture. The style was a bit strange, but it was still within Lei Xingfeng's understanding. There was a hexagonal table, a halfway seat. The floor was covered with thick bee skin. In the corner, there was a large glass vase with a few winter sweet flowers. A delicate fragrance wafted out. The sleeping room was a large Kong bed that took up half of the room. There was a screen in front of the Kong bed. On the Kong bed, there was a short table that was made very delicately. What surprised Exinfeng the most was that there was actually a bathroom in this house, and the bathtub wasn't made from boiling water, but from a hot spring. Although the house was small, it was more luxurious than he had imagined, making him very satisfied. Xian Yao felt even more curious. Exinfeng still had the memories of his past life to compare, but she had never seen anything like this before. She already felt that her home in Tiger Cliff Castle was very good, but she had never thought that there would be such beautiful furniture, such a bright room, and the floor was luxuriously covered with bee skin. This was too exaggerated. She walked into the room and started to let out sounds of surprise. Yin could not help but show a trace of disdain. People in the mountains were so strange. Chapter 44. Hong Chen said, "I'll have to trouble Senior to stay here for a while. We'll make arrangements when we see the elder." The old man Thunderstorm did not mind. "Staying here is good enough." Hong Chen took out a leather bag and said, "Here are some gold and silver rings for the child to buy things." He put down the bag, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The old man nodded. "Okay." Only then did Hong Chen leave with Yin. He had to rush to report to the great clan elder. After Hong Chen and his disciple left, Lei Xingfeng curiously opened the bag and poured out a pile of gold and silver on the table. He asked, "Yi, this is money?" The old man nodded and said, "These are gold rings and silver rings. They are the common currency of mortals. There are no bronze rings here. 10 bronze rings can be exchanged for a silver ring." 10 silver rings can be exchanged for a gold ring. Yes, this is the currency of mortals. We use different currencies. Cultivators have their own currency. Lei Xingfeng had always lived in Tiger Cliff Castle. He thought that there was no currency in this world, as all the transactions he had seen were through bartering. He picked up a gold ring and found that it was very exquisite. The size was about the same as the copper coins in his previous world. There was a hole in the middle, not a square shape, but a circle. There were no words or patterns on it. It was a gold ring, the same for silver rings. Xian Yao counted and said, "There are more than 200 gold rings and more than 100 silver rings. Such beautiful money." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yao Yao, you can keep it." At home, she had always been the housekeeper. The property of the house had always been managed by the little girl. She tied the bag to her waist. The old man said, "I still have some practitioner's currency here. It's worth much more than this." Xian Yao's face showed signs of tiredness. Lei Xingfeng said, "Little sister, go and sleep. Later brother will bring you to eat." Xian Yao nodded. "Okay, I'm tired too." She never needed Lei Xingfeng to worry about her. She was so obedient that it made his heart ache. After Xian Yao went to her room to sleep, Lei Xingfeng and the old man sat down. Lei Xingfeng stretched and laughed. "Ayi, how long will we be staying here?" The old man said, "We'll leave after the coldest weather of the winter. At that time, we'll find a large caravan and leave together." Lei Xingfeng calculated for a moment and knew that they would have to stay in Hongtong City for at least a few months. He said, "That's good. We can take advantage of this opportunity to familiarize ourselves with the city. Haha, my little sister and I have always lived in Tiger Cliff Castle. We don't know anything. It's good to learn a bit here." The old man nodded slightly. Tiger Cliff Castle was too isolated. It was not good for the children's growth. This was also the reason why he left as soon as he recovered his power. He did not want his grandson and granddaughter to be country bumpkins. Lei Xingfeng secretly rejoiced that he had a powerful Yi. His life in Tiger Cliff Castle should not be too difficult. At the beginning, his life in Tiger Cliff Castle was extremely painful. If not for Yi and his little sister giving him a goal to live on, he would have endured the most difficult days. Now, it seemed that this world was not as backward as he thought. The sky gradually darkened. A servant knocked on the door and entered. Two servants carried food boxes and placed the dishes one by one on the table. Then, another servant carried an exquisite bamboo basket in. 8 dishes, 1 soup, and a basket of steamed buns. Very exquisite stir-fried dishes, very fresh vegetables, and various kinds of roasted meat. In this season, vegetables were not seen anymore. Who would have thought that there would be fresh vegetables here? This made Lei Xingfeng very surprised. He went in the room to wake Xian Yao up and brought the dazed Xian Yao to the living room. Xian Yao was immediately awakened by the smell of the dishes. She threw herself at the table and said in surprise, "Is this for us?" The old man dotingly rubbed her head and said, "Eat, eat." Xian Yao grabbed the food without a care for her image. It was normal to eat with one's hands. Xian Feng passed her a spoon and a small knife while he took a pair of chopsticks and started eating. The old man ate very slowly. However, Lei Xingfeng and Xian Yao's table manners were very ugly. The two of them wolfed down the food. Xian Yao only took a bite of the dish, and she was completely conquered. She said in a daze, "Delicious, delicious, it's really delicious." The good thing was that the stir-fried dishes were enough. They were all in small bowls. The snow-white steamed buns, even in Hongtong City, were eaten by the rich. Normal people could not afford it. This was brought from the outside by a large caravan. The meat here was the cheapest. The fresh vegetables were very expensive. The most expensive thing was the noodles made from white flour. The three of them swept through the food. In a moment, everything was gone. Xian Yao rubbed her stomach. The expression on her face was very strange. She was both comfortable and sad. She ate until she was full. Lei Xingfeng rubbed her little head and said with a smile, "You ate until you're full. Get up and move around." This girl drank at least half of the big bowl of soup. Xian Yao whimpered, "Brother, so eating until you're full is also very uncomfortable." I. She moved her body with difficulty turning around in circles in the living room. The old man and Lei Xingfeng could not help but laugh. Xian Yao clutched her stomach. That look was very amusing. Xian Yao shouted, "Don't laugh at me. Who told them to cook so well? I'm so full." The next day, Shi Quan brought Hong Chun and his disciple to visit. Shi Quan was already very old. As a person who condensed 3 true ring bodies and reached the level of a true Lunin master, he could live for 300 to 350 years. He was already 300 years old and had not been able to break through, so his appearance started to age. The old man and Shi Quan met. The first sentence made him completely speechless. "Brother, the last time we met, you had 3 true ring bodies. After so many years, how come you still have 3 true ring bodies? Are you addicted to being a true Lunin master? If you don't break through, you'll be in big trouble." After a while, Shi Quan laughed bitterly. "Brother, wanting to break through, how could it be so easy?" Practitioners were fighting against time. If they could not break through in time, then they would face old age and death. For example, the old man Thunderstorm. Due to his injuries, he could only hide in a remote village and wait for death. He could only give up everything to raise the next generation. If not for his good luck this time, he would not have appeared again and would have died silently in Tiger Cliff Castle. Hong Chun and Yin sat obediently at the side. Actually, Hong Chun was also facing this problem. He was also unable to break through his current realm and did not have much time left. The old man said, "You stayed in Hong Tong for too long. You already lost your drive to improve." Shi Quan nodded and admitted, "Yes, the life here is too comfortable. There is not much danger. I plan to wait a few more years. If I still haven't broken through, then I'll leave Hong Tong and see if I have a chance to break through. If not, then I'll just die outside." The old man said, "It depends on your luck." Shi Quan said, "Brother, it's been so many years. I didn't know that you were training in Hong Tong's territory. You should have told me." The old man laughed bitterly and shook his head. "It's better that you didn't know. Even if you were Hong Tong, you wouldn't be able to handle it." Shi Quan said, "Brother, are your injuries all healed?" The old man said faintly, All healed. My luck was good, and I even broke through." Shi Quan's face revealed a shocked expression, saying, "Broke through? My God, this is too scary. Brother, you've reached the 6th true ring body?" The old man said, "No matter how many true ring bodies I have, the most important thing is that I have completely recovered. I believe. There are a few friends who won't be able to sleep." His tone had a strong sense of resentment and hatred. Hong Chun and Yan's body stiffened. 6th true ring body? What kind of concept was that? Condensing a 6th true ring body and being called a true Yin master. That was a truly terrifying expert. They didn't think that they would be able to see a true Yin master in their lifetime. The two's expression instantly became respectful. If a true Yin master went crazy, even if all the experts of Hong Tong came, they wouldn't have any hope of winning. Shi Quan said, "We are just a small faction at the border. Brother, you are a great god. The old man said, "God my ass. If I was a great god, I wouldn't have been beaten to such a state. I wouldn't have to hide in this godforsaken place." Shi Quan laughed bitterly, saying, "Brother, are these your grandson and granddaughter?" Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xian Yao stepped forward and bowed, saying, "Greetings to Senior." Shi Quan said, "No need to call me Senior, call me Grandpa Shi." Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xian Yao immediately called him Grandpa Shi. Shi Quan smiled and gave the 2 gifts, a bag of gold rings each. Lei Xingfeng didn't think that there would be this kind of etiquette here and casually gave the gift to Lei Xian Yao. Lei Xian Yao, this little housekeeper, kept it with a smile. She now knew that gold rings and silver rings could be exchanged for food and other things. This kind of good stuff, the more the better, she wouldn't reject it. Shi Quan's eyesight was much better than Hong Chen's. At first he didn't notice it, but when the 2 children stood in front of him, he only slightly looked and revealed a shocked expression, saying, Brother, your grandson and granddaughter aren't simple. They both have single Lunin. Good fellow, a single green Lunin, Thunder Lunin." The old man smiled proudly. He cared about his grandson and granddaughter the most. If someone praised him, he would gladly accept it. Shi Quan sighed. After a while, he said, what a pity, brother is planning to teach them yourself. The old man nodded. That's right, you don't need to think about it. Shi Quan said, forget it. Let's not talk about this. Brother, have you been to Shirong Land? The old man said, I've heard of it, but never been there. Shi Quan said, in Shirong Land, an ancient Luan Chang space was found. It has already appeared. According to some people's estimates, this Luan Chang space is at least 20,000 years old. The old man suddenly stood up, saying what? Chapter 45. Luan Chang space materialized. This was a type of Luan Chang space that disappeared after the death of an almighty. However, Luan Chang space had a special characteristic, which was that after a certain period of time, it would materialize and form a strange space. This space was the materialized Luan Chang space. Only a powerful being's hidden Luan space could form a place similar to a blessed land. A normal powerful being's hidden Luan space, once materialized, would collapse, and the things inside would fall to the ground or underground. This was a silent inheritance. Whoever obtained it would be rich. When a practitioner was killed, his Luan Chang space would not materialize, so it was not possible to kill and steal unless you had special methods. All the materialized Luan Chang spaces did not collapse, so it could be determined that this Luan Chang space was left behind by an extremely powerful almighty. Its value was incomparable. It was said that in the ancient times, there were countless almighties and powerful experts. Modern practitioners had already lost many of their legacies. If there was no sect to pass it down, then they would need to fumble around and train. The hardship was indescribable. The ancient almighty's Luan Chang space, once materialized, could form a huge space. It could be a few hundred kilometers in diameter or 1,000 kilometers in diameter. Once it was forcefully invaded, it would absorb large amounts of soil and air, forming a small paradise. This kind of thing was the most sought-after treasure by large sections. It was the best place for a sect to live in, not to mention the large amount of ancient treasures in the Luan Chang space. Every materialized Luan Chang space would cause a storm of blood. Anyone who heard this news, as long as they had the ability, would be tempted. This time, even Old Man Thunderstorm was tempted. He said, Shirong Land has a Luan Chang space materialized. What's the situation now? Who obtained it? Shi Quan said, I have news from an old friend. He said that this Luan Chang space has just materialized and has not truly stabilized. It will take about 2 to 3 years for it to truly stabilize. At that time, we can think of a way to enter. Lei Bao sneered. Without the strength of a true Yin master, there's no way to tear open a hidden Luan space and enter. Moreover, after tearing open a hidden Luan space without a certain level of strength, one would definitely be killed by the mud and air. What's his strength? Shi Quan's face reddened. He has 2 true ring bodies, Great Millwall Sage. His name is Tan Ko. This person's strength is indeed weaker in the same level, but he is generous, has many friends, and a wide source of information. This person is not bad. Thunderstorm said, Great Millwall Sage with 2 true ring bodies. As expected, another person who doesn't care for treasures. But I'm very interested. Shi Quan was pleasantly surprised. With the old man Lei Bao going, he could at least get some benefits. The appearance of a hidden Luan space in Shirong Land. This news had already spread widely. Who knew what kind of experts would appear? With his current strength, it was not enough, although he was already a top expert in Hong Tong Land. But outside of Hong Tong's sphere of influence, he could still be considered an expert, but definitely not a top expert. He had always been hesitant. It wasn't that he didn't want to go, but he knew that with his strength, don't talk about getting a piece of the pie. Even picking up leftovers would be difficult. Until he received news from Old Thunderstorm, this hope was reignited. His strength was not enough, but he knew that Old Thunderstorm's strength was not ordinary. With Old Thunderstorm's strength, once he went to Shirong Land, he would definitely be able to occupy a certain position. The prerequisite was that Old Thunderstorm was interested in going. So when Old Thunderstorm said that he was interested, He was pleasantly surprised and smiled. If old bro is willing to go, then leave the rest to me. Lei Xingfeng said, Ah Yi, where is Shi Rong land? How far is it from here? The old man said, very far, but we can take a shortcut. If we go through the ancient Lun passage, it would only take 1 or 2 months. Shi Quan was shocked. Old bro, you can find the ancient Lun passage? That's great. Otherwise, it would take at least a year to get to Shi Rong land. That would be too tiring. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, Ancient Lun passage? What's that? He couldn't understand what it was. The old man gave a simple introduction. The so-called Ancient Lun passage was a space passage opened by the Ancient Almighty. It was also a Lun point. A Lun point connected to a Lun point, allowing one to quickly travel through time and space. However, to be able to use the Ancient Lun passage, one had to be an expert with 4 true ring bodies or above. Without reaching this level, there was no way to open the Ancient Lun passage. So once one reached 4 true ring bodies, that is a great true Lunin master, one could move around the entire continent. The old man said, there should be a Lun point nearby, about 20 days away from Hong Tong City. Shi Quan was shocked again. He had 3 true ring bodies, a true Lunin master, and a great true Lunin master, so he couldn't find a Lun point. Of course, he didn't know about the existence of a Lun point near Hong Tong City. He asked, old bro, how do you know? The old man said, I used it once, of course I know. Back then, he had escaped from this Lun point and escaped to Tiger Cliff Castle to live in seclusion. After arriving at Tiger Cliff Castle, his injuries became more and more serious until he completely lost his cultivation. He never thought that he would be able to recover and use a Lun point again. Lei Xingfeng secretly smacked his lips. This was the first time he had heard of such an advanced method of transportation. It could actually directly go from point to point and travel through space. The planes and even rockets of his previous life were too weak. He had originally thought that the transportation in this world was too weak, but suddenly there was such a mysterious ancient Lun passage. It could be imagined how incredible the ancient era of this world was. Hong Chun and Lei Xingfeng were about the same. There were some things that he had heard of, but there were many things that he had never heard of. He knew about Lun points, but it was only from hearsay. He had never seen it before. It must be known that the strongest expert in Hong Tong was Shi Quan, a true Lunin master. To use a Lun point, one had to reach a higher level, becoming a great true Lunin master. True Lunin master and great true Lunin master. Although there was only a difference of 1 word, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. The difficulty of advancing from 3 true ring bodies to 4 true ring bodies was no less than advancing from a millwheel master to a millwheel master. This was a huge hurdle. Who knows how many practitioners were stuck at this hurdle? Hong Chun and his disciple Yin were like primary school students. They sat very respectfully, not daring to interrupt. Listening to the 2 seniors talking, to be able to listen to the conversation of these experts, the benefits were huge. They could obtain a lot of information. Yan's eyes shone. She also wanted to go and see the Lun points. She also wanted to see the hidden Lun space. This kind of opportunity was hard to come by. She wanted to speak a few times, but seeing her master sitting respectfully, listening attentively, she lost all courage. She was very envious of Lei Xingfeng, daring to say anything, daring to ask anything. Shi Quan said, if this is the case, we can leave soon. We don't need to stay in Hong Tong City for the winter. The old man Thunderstorm said, we have enough time. Let's first rest in Hong Tong City for a while and prepare. Then we will go to Shi Rong land. Shi Quan was overjoyed. He knew that the old man wanted to bring him along. Finally, Hong Chen couldn't take it anymore and said, Senior is going to Shi Rong land. You will need a lot of people to take care of the chores. How about I take care of it? He looked at the old man longingly. Yin also became nervous. She also wanted to go. The old man, Thunderstorm, nodded. That's good too. If you're willing to follow, I have no objections. In, prepare a small team of 20 people. At least 1,000 Lun master and above. It would be best if they are 1 Lun sure. If their cultivation is too low, it won't do. Shi Quan nodded. Okay, let Hong Chen take care of this. Hong Chen hurriedly expressed that he would personally take care of this matter. Yan's face was filled with joy. If her master personally took care of it, it meant that she would have a place. Lei Xingfeng didn't have any worries. His grandfather would definitely bring him and his sister. He was still in the learning stage. He estimated that he would only be allowed to go out to train after reaching the first ring true master level. Actually, normal practitioners could only go out to train after reaching the level of Millwheel Master. As a talented practitioner, although their training speed was extremely fast, there were also a group of people who were envied by others. Once they were discovered by other practitioners, they would often be killed. In any sect or large power, a talented person must at least have the ability to protect themselves. Only then would they be allowed to go out to train. Some sects would even send experts to protect them. This was a requirement for growth. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng knew in his heart that he couldn't go out alone. He also didn't want to go out to train by himself. This was a weakness left over from his previous life. However, as Lei Xingfeng's training deepened, the restlessness in his heart would become stronger and stronger. Until he couldn't suppress it, it would change his personality. In fact, he often found out that he would become irritable for no reason. It was only because he had the suppression of his previous life's peaceful personality that he could remain calm and collected. This was also a problem that the old man was secretly worried about. He had already found out that Lei Xingfeng had reached the level of Wan Luan Shi, yet he was still so peaceful. This was really a problem. When the old man was young, he had reached the level of Wan Luan Shi. That was like a barrel of gunpowder. The slightest spark would cause him to explode. Who knew how many people he had offended? Because he had someone to protect him, he was extremely arrogant and overbearing. He could be said to be a master that everyone was afraid of. However, Lei Xingfeng was completely different. He was cultured and refined. He rarely showed signs of anger and was extremely calm. This made the old man very uneasy. People with a single lightning attribute Luan mark would find it hard to grow. However, once they did, they would all become super experts. They were the best at fighting. Chapter 46. Lei Xingfeng did not know about the old man's worries. He felt that this kind of life was not bad, being able to travel to many places and see the wonders of this world. Shi Quan and the old man chatted for a while before leaving in satisfaction. After waiting for Shi Quan and Hong Chen master and disciple to leave, Xian Feng asked, "Grandpa, Shirong Land and the place we originally wanted to go, is it close?" The old man laughed. "Two directions, but don't worry, we can find some Luan points in Shirong Land. There won't be any delay." Lei Xingfeng sighed. With Luan points and ancient Luan passage, perhaps traveling in this world would not be a difficult thing. The only problem was that there must be a master with 4 true ring bodies, or else even if there were Luan points, you would not be able to use them, not to mention opening the ancient Luan passage. The old man said, "You bring Yaya to play in Hong Tong City these few days. I have some things to do and will be gone for a while. It won't be too long. With Grandpa Chi here to take care of things, there shouldn't be any problems." The next day, the old man left. He specially instructed Shi Quan to send people to protect Lei Xingfeng and Xian Yao, especially when the 2 children were playing in Hong Tong City. There must be someone to protect them. This task fell on Hong Chen and his disciple. Hearing about shopping, Xian Yao immediately became excited. She was different from Lei Xingfeng. She did not have the memories of her previous life. She had never been to the city, not to mention shopping, even though she was young. But girls were naturally interested in shopping, adding on to the fact that she had been in charge of the whole family since she was young. All the food and clothing in the family were managed by her. She developed the personality of a little housekeeper. At home, she could order her brother and grandfather to do things. In the family, Yaya had the most power. Everyone had to listen to her. She tied the bag containing the gold rings to her waist. Every time she walked, it would make a ding, ding, dang, dang sound. Especially when she was jumping around, Xian Yao enjoyed it very much. As long as the ding, dang, dang sound did not stop, she would feel at ease because now she knew that the gold and silver rings could be exchanged for all kinds of good things in the city, even though she had not used it once. It did not stop her from liking it. Hong Chun and Yin arrived on time outside the room. Xi and Yao and Lei Xingfeng were already prepared, following the two outside. The place they were going to was the place they saw when they first entered the city. There were all kinds of things there. It was the best place to shop. After all, Xi and Yao had never used money before, so she held Lei Xingfeng's hand tightly, curiously sizing up the stalls. These stalls had a lot of miscellaneous things. Basically, Lei Xingfeng felt that it was very simple. The things were not exquisite, but Xi and Yao had never seen it before. She carefully inspected every stall, but rarely made a purchase. Until they reached a stall selling cloth and silk, Xi and Yao could not walk. The beautiful silk and all kinds of flowery cloth made her unable to walk. Her gaze fixed on it. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Yao Yao, buy some." Xi and Yao nodded, but she did not know how to buy because she never knew how to buy things. Lei Xingfeng walked up and said, "This big brother, how much is the silk?" A skinny man wearing a fur coat walked up and said, "Little brother, the silk I have here is all from my La Country. You know, my La Country silk is the most famous specialty product. The color is bright. It is best used to cut clothes, little brother. How much do you want?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I asked you, how much is this silk? Why are you talking so much nonsense?" He was slightly impatient. The skinny man was shocked. He could hear the impatience in Lei Xingfeng's voice and said, "1 gold ring, 1 foot. If you buy more, it can be cheaper." Xi and Yao did not know how to bargain at all. She said 1 gold ring, 1 foot. She secretly calculated how many gold rings she had in her purse. Lei Xingfeng did not know the concept of price here. He turned his head and asked Yin, 1 gold ring, 1 foot of silk. Is this the price here? Yin nodded and said, "It's about the same. People here rarely buy silk, especially in this season. If it was the warm season, the silk would sell better, but in this season it is hard to sell." Xi and Yao did not know how to sew clothes. She liked the beautiful color of silk and the soft touch. It was just pure love. After hesitating for a long time, she still did not buy. She pulled Lei Xingfeng and left. Along the way, Xi and Yao basically saw a lot. She almost did not buy anything. In the end, she only bought 2 big fur hats and 2 pairs of boots for her brother, and Ai. She did not buy anything for herself. In the end, Lei Xingfeng could not stand it anymore and bought some small accessories, among which there were a few silk flowers, which made the little girl very happy. Holding the silk flowers, the little girl skipped in front of the few people, the money bag on her belt jingling. Suddenly, a few youths blocked her way. One of them said, "Io, this little girl is very rich. Where are your parents?" Xing Yao looked at him cautiously and said, "Move." The few youths surrounded her. One of them suddenly grabbed the money bag and pulled it out, tried to grab the money bag, who knew that Xing Yao tied the money bag very tightly. At the same time, she covered the bag and shouted, "What are you doing?" The few youths laughed and grabbed Xing Yao. One of them even used force to pull Xing Yao's arm away. At that moment, Xing Yao cried out loudly, "Brother, brother!" Because Lei Xingfeng was talking to Hong Chun, he did not notice until Xing Yao cried out for her brother. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. In that moment, he only felt a nameless fire rush to his head. He could be indifferent to other things, but when it came to his little sister, this was his Achilles heel. It was something that he could not touch at all. With a roar, he had already rushed out. Grabbing one of the youths by the collar, his fist had already punched out. With one punch, the youth's head was smashed open. A Wan Luanshi's rage. How could these youths be able to resist? These youths had just started training. They had not even reached 100 Lun Master. They were beaten up by Lei Xingfeng. 1 was killed, 2 were heavily injured, and the other 2 were fiercely stepped on the ground. Xing Yao cried loudly as she threw herself into Lei Xingfeng's embrace. She was frightened by the sudden robbery. "Don't cry, Yao Yao, don't cry." That anger made Lei Xingfeng's eyes red. He directly lost his mind, took out the dagger at his waist and stabbed. He did not care about killing. At this moment, his personality from his previous life suddenly disappeared. The sound of a horn sounded. A 100 Lun patrol team rushed over. One of them shouted, "Put down your weapons." Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Fuck you," directly stabbing a youth to death. He did not care about the team. At this moment, he was crazy. Hong Chun was also shocked. He did not think that Lei Xingfeng would be so violent to actually kill people on the street. The 100 patrol team had 8 people, 8 spears pointed at Lei Xingfeng. If Lei Xingfeng continued to kill, they would not hesitate to kill this violent youth. Hong Chen shouted, "Stop!" Lei Xingfeng suddenly turned his head and said, "You're telling me to stop?" Hong Chen's heart jumped. He noticed that Lei Xingfeng's eyes were red. He hurriedly said, "I'm telling them to stop." Saying so, he took out a metal plate, raised it in his hand, and said, "I'm an outer sect elder. Let your leader come here. Also, capture these little fellows for me. Fuck, robbing in the middle of the day, preposterous." Lei Xingfeng stabbed the 2 youths who attacked Xan Yao to death. Only then did he vent his anger. Calming down a bit, he hugged Xan Yao and said, "Yao Yao, are you hurt?" Xan Yao hugged Lei Xingfeng's neck and said softly, "No, brother, they stole my money. Woo woo." Lei Xingfeng said with heartache, don't cry, brother will help you vent your anger." Yin at the side also felt incomparable jealousy. This brother really doted on his sister. Just because he stole her money, he actually killed 2 people, but when she thought of Old Man Thunderstorm, she could not help but be secretly shocked. She knew that Old Man Thunderstorm doted on these 2 children even more. Hong Chen's heart was also a bit panicked. He secretly blamed himself. If Xan Yao was hurt, then the trouble would be big. The teenagers were also scared silly. They were the new disciples of Hong Tong. They often came to the market to steal chickens and dogs, and when people were not paying attention, they robbed money. Because they were preparatory disciples, the patrol team often turned a blind eye. As long as they could run away, they would treat it as if nothing had happened. So these teenagers were getting bolder and bolder. The person in charge of the patrol team was also an outer sect disciple, a Millwall master. He hurriedly rushed over and said, "Who killed?" After calming down, Lei Xingfeng was secretly shocked. He actually became so angry, and he completely could not control himself. That kind of reckless killing intent was almost uncontrollable, adding that his current strength was quite strong. Killing was unavoidable. If it was according to Lei Xingfeng's temper in his previous life, to deal with this kind of person, if he had the ability, at most he would beat them up. He would definitely not think of killing. However, this world was different. Killing was not a taboo thing. If he really killed, then he killed. Who told these preparatory disciples not to have eyes, daring to bully Xan Yao? Lei Xingfeng was already calm enough to not kill them all. Lei Xingfeng coldly said, "I killed them. So what?" The person in charge was instantly enraged to actually dare to kill people in Hong Tong City. That was not putting Hong Tong's power in his eyes. He shouted, "Men, arrest him." Lei Xingfeng indifferently said, "You try arresting me." Chapter 47. Hong Chun was instantly enraged to actually ignore him as an outer sect elder, even though he was always on the move, and the time he returned to Hong Tong City could be counted on one hand. But he could not be ignored like this. Is this bastard trying to rebel? Hong Chun did not even speak and directly pounced forward, slapping the person in charge's face. That person was slapped until he spun around twice and was immediately stunned, his mouth still saying, you fucking dare to hit me. Men. Enemy attack." Without waiting for him to finish, Hong Chun slapped him again, and that person's face swelled up. With one true ring body, the strength of a true Master Millwheel's hand was definitely not to be underestimated, hitting that person until he saw stars, and his ears were ringing like thunder. A few of his underlings hurried forward, but did not dare to grab Hong Chun, and instead supported that person. Hong Chun did not wait for that person to shout again. The sign in his hand was already raised in front of that person's eyes, coldly saying, "You F***king, look carefully. Still F***king, enemy attack. Enemy, your F***king attack." That person tried his best to open his eyes. An outer sect elder's badge. All outer sect elders had one true ring body, and were at least at the level of a true Master Millwheel. How could a small Wanluan Shur like him offend them? Even though he was dizzy from the 2 slaps, but he could still clearly distinguish the elder's badge, and the sweat on his face immediately rolled down. He was scared stiff for a moment. He could not understand how the person in front of him could be an outer sect. Elder. This was a society with a strict hierarchy. If you offend your superiors, the only result would be to be killed. Of course, if you had the strength, then it was a different story, but that person clearly did not have the strength to resist the elder's oppression. Hong Chen coldly said, "What is your name?" That person used his swollen head, his face full of sweat, and said, I am the one in charge of security here. Tian Bao Chung. Wan Luan, sure. Hong Chen said, Tian Bao Chung, are you an idiot? Or an idiot? Do you fucking not have eyes? Although he did not continue to attack, but Tian Bao Chung was already drenched in blood. Xen Yao said softly, Brother, let's go back. The little girl finally understood that this place was completely different from Tiger Cliff Castle. She had never seen anyone steal her money. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Okay, Yao, let's go back. Grandpa Du, we'll go back first. Hong Chun hurriedly said, Yin Yin, you are in charge of sending them back. Tian Baocheng didn't know that Lei Xingfeng was the murderer, so he didn't stop him. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't dare to stop him now. Lei Xingfeng carried Lei Xingyao back. Hong Chen did not leave. After all, the one who died was a preparatory disciple. He had to take care of it. He said, Tian Baocheng, do you see those people? Bring him back. He's really something. A preparatory disciple actually dares to steal money from a 6-year-old girl. Damn it, which bastard taught him this? Bring him back and give him a good beating. He couldn't help but curse again. This was really too embarrassing. Tian Baocheng's heart was gloomy. Only now did he know that it was those sneaky preparatory disciples who caused him to be slapped by the elders. And after this incident, he might not be able to be the person in charge here. This job was a lucrative one. Who knows how many Wanluan people were eyeing it? He fiercely said, Bring him back, bring him back. Damn it, I want to do it myself. He couldn't vent his anger. He was prepared to take it out on the few people who were still alive. A preparatory disciple suddenly shouted, Ankh is dead. Ankh is dead. You guys are also finished. Ankh is the great-grandson of the inner sect elder, and he's been beaten to death. You guys can't run. Tian Baocheng couldn't help but see stars. He quickly walked in front of the two corpses and flipped them over to check. His face turned ashen. It really was Ankh. He had seen and knew Ankh. His great-grandfather was the famous elder Nzi Shi in the inner sect. This old man was very famous in Hong Kong. His hidden power was very strong. He controlled many people and was a very strong person. Hong Chen's heart thumped. Of course he knew Nzi Shi. That was second only to Shi Quan. Within the inner sect, he was a very tyrannical presence. He didn't think that Lei Xingfeng would actually kill his great-grandson. This would be big trouble. Tian Baocheng was also dumbfounded. The culprit had already left, but with Hong Chun here, he was not afraid that the culprit would really run away. He said, Elder, this matter, I think the elders will give me an explanation. Hong Chun was irritated. He did not think that Tian Baocheng would dare to threaten him. He raised his hand and slapped Tian Baocheng's face, causing his head to shake. Hong Chen's anger could not be vented. He grabbed Tian Baocheng's collar, swung his arm, and slapped Tian Baocheng. The people around were all shocked. Are you F***king threatening me? Is that right? If you want to die, I'll help you right now. Say something. Are you ***king mute? Hong Chen was also dizzy from the beating. He was slapping Tian Baocheng's face while letting him speak. If he could speak, that would be really weird. Tian Baocheng's tears and mucus flowed down. He finally understood. If Ensure Z could take his life, why couldn't the clan elder in front of him take his life? He had nothing better to do. To provoke the clan elder, this plan was wasted. To be able to beat a Wanlun Shi until he cried, Hong Chun could be considered as strong. Pushing hard, Hong Chun turned around and left. Since this time he had offended Nzi Shi, an inner sect elder, then he had to hold on to another inner sect elder. At least Shi Quan's strength was a bit stronger than Nzi Shi, so he had to find Shi Quan as soon as possible and report this matter to him. Tian Bao Chung watched Hong Chun leave with tears in his eyes. He had already been beaten until he was scared. He didn't dare to stop Hong Chun from leaving. He didn't even dare to make a sound. Using Hong Chen's beating, he pretended to be dead and let his subordinates carry him back. Punk. A hexagonal table was knocked down. A tall elder's face was ashen. He said, "Who killed my great-grandson? You tell me." Tian Bao Chang covered his face. His face was like a pig. He was slapped again by Nzi Shi. This time the slap was even more vicious. His face was covered in blood. He trembled and said, "He was killed by a young man." "Who is this young man?" "I don't know." "Ah, don't hit me, don't hit me. I know how to find that young man." He covered his face and kept retreating. And Zisher's eyes were spitting fire. His arm was already raised, but he didn't slap him. He said coldly, "Speak." Tian Bao Cheng said bitterly, "That young man has an outer sect elder beside him. I just checked. It's the outer sect elder Hong Chun." And Zisher was very clear about the elders. He was a little surprised. "Do Hong Chun? When did he come to Hong Tong City?" Immediately after, his face became even uglier. An outer court elder dared to be so arrogant, daring to deal with him. He said, "Men, go get Elder Du Hong Chun." After all, he was an elder-level expert. Even if he was stronger than Hong Chun and had a higher position than him, he couldn't just ignore an elder. Immediately, someone went out to invite Hong Chun. Very quickly, someone came in to report that Nzi Shi's underling had found Lei Xingfeng. And Nzi Shi said in shock, "It's great Elder Shi Quan's guest." He frowned. In Hong Tong, he could say whatever he wanted, but there were a few people he was afraid of. One of them was the great Elder Shi Quan. This wasn't because Shi Quan had 3 true ring bodies, but because in Hong Tong, Shi Quan's influence was on par with his, maybe even deeper than his. His underling said that young man is called Lei Xingfeng. He also has a sister called Lei Xian Yao. They came with an old man. It is obvious that great elder Shi Quan values them. They are staying in the VIP building. And Zisher nodded and said, "Good, very good. Is the great elder very amazing? Daring to kill my family's people. I don't believe that you will go to war with me for a junior." About half an hour later, someone came in to report, "Hong Chun is with great elder Shi Quan." And Zisher said indifferently, "Did you invite him?" That person said, "I invited him." Hong Chun said he has something to do and can't come for now. And Zisher laughed in anger. "Good, ha, very good. You really think I'm made of mud, ha ha." His underlings all held their breaths. No one dared to speak or move. They all knew that Zisher was like a volcano. He might explode at any moment. One circle after another, and Shi was so angry that he was going around in circles. Suddenly, he saw Tian Bao Cheng, and his anger exploded. He kicked Tian Bao Cheng to the ground and raised his leg to leave. Tian Bao Cheng howled loudly. The more Zisher hit, the angrier he got. Gradually, he started to lose control of his strength. Tian Bao Cheng also felt that something was wrong. At first, he thought that Zisher was just venting his anger. So as long as he endured it, even if he was beaten into a pig's head, it wouldn't be a big deal. But when his arm was suddenly broken, he understood that Zisher had lost control. He suddenly jumped out, hugging his broken arm, silently running away. "Want to run?" And Zisher had completely lost his mind. He suddenly struck out with his palm. A golden light instantly hit Tian Bao Cheng's body. Second true ring body. Great Mill Will's spiritual master made a move to kill. With Tian Bao Cheng's skills, he cannot block it. Instantly, Tian Bao Cheng's body exploded. In that moment, Zisher woke up. He knew that it was not good. But under his anger, he could not care so much. He said indifferently, "Clean it up." His underlings went to clean it up, and Zisher's anger subsided, and he said, "I heard that a few preparatory disciples were caught. Young master was with them?" Someone agreed and said, "Yes, those people are outside." And Zisher said, "Bring them in." Chapter 48. The few preparatory disciples were brought in with pale faces. Their hands and feet were still tied up and thrown in like trash. And Shi said, "Tell me what happened. Whoever dares to lie, say one sentence. I'll cut off a leg, 2 sentences, and I'll cut off 2 legs." A few preparatory disciples were so scared that their bodies were trembling. Very quickly, they recounted everything that had happened, not daring to hide anything. This matter was originally a sudden incident, and the one leading them was Ensure Z's great-grandson. This rascal was used to being a tyrant, and snatching a young lady's purse was too normal and was not considered a serious matter. Ensure Z said, "Just because of this, you killed the young master?" The few people nodded. Ensure Z suddenly said, "Young master is dead. How are you all still alive?" The few people trembled and could not speak. They could only look at Ensure Z with pleading eyes. Ensure Z said calmly, "Men, drag them out and beat them. You are not allowed to beat them to death. If you don't, then die." With this order, his underlings were all stunned. What did it mean they were not allowed to die? If they didn't die, then they would die. What kind of ***king order was this? But Ensure Z had personally given the order. Who dared to go against it? They immediately dragged the few people out. Since they had already made up their minds, they would first beat them half to death, then see the situation. Ensure Z turned a few more times, wore his coat, brought his underlings, and walked out the door. Lei Xingfeng did not return for long. He was invited by Shiquan to his residence. It was a large courtyard with 7 small buildings. When Shiquan knew that Lei Xingfeng had killed Ensure Z's great-grandson, he immediately ordered for Lei Xingfeng and his sister to be brought home. He did not dare to leave them in the VIP building. If the 2 children were killed by Ensure Z out of anger, that would be terrifying. After carefully asking about what had happened, Shiquan was also angered. These bastards were too daring, openly robbing on the streets, moreover robbing a little girl. He said, "All right, it's fine. You all can temporarily stay in my house, and I'll let people bring you there." Lei Xingfeng brought Lei Xianyao and left. Hong Chan said, "Great Elder, what should we do?" His heart was starting to panic. He was an outer sect elder against an inner sect elder whose strength and influence far exceeded his own. His future was bleak. He even had thoughts of leaving Hong Tong. This hatred was a death grudge. He was not like Shiquan Great Elder. He was not able to withstand Ensure Z's revenge. Shiquan said, "Don't worry. In the future you can just join our faction. I believe that Zishure is not that stupid." He directly added insult to injury and took the opportunity to recruit Hong Chun. Hong Chen's face changed slightly. He had been working hard to form his own faction, but now if he did not join Shiquan's faction, he would really be in danger. He clenched his teeth and said, "Great Elder." All right. He was very unwilling. Shiquan laughed loudly. "Don't worry, little brother. I will not mistreat my own people." Although Hong Chan was unwilling, but at this point he had no choice but to make a decision. After all, he was a real master of the mill wheel. His strength had already reached a higher level. Even if he left Hong Tong's influence, with his strength, he could still do well. But after operating for so long, he did not want to throw everything away and leave. Someone came to report, "Great Elder, Intersect Elder, and has arrived." Shiquan said, "Please meet him in the living room." "Little brother Du, let's go together. This matter has to be settled eventually." The 2 of them brought a group of underlings and quickly arrived at the large living room in front. Hong Chun had not seen Zishure for a period of time. He had been running around outside all year round, so his power was outside, and he was weaker in Hong Tong City. And Zishure was not young. His head was bald, his face was covered with a steel needle-like beard. His body was 2 meters tall. It was said that this guy had the blood of the barbarians, looking very valiant, wearing a black leather coat. His eyes were like an eagle's, staring at Hong Chun. The hatred in his eyes was overwhelming. Shiquan said, "Why does Elder have the time to come here? Is something the matter?" Ensure Z said, "That's right. I indeed have something to look for the Great Elder." Shiquan said, "Please sit, speak. What is it?" He acted as if he did not know anything. Ensure Z did not sit. He stood in the middle of the living room and said, "I am looking for a young man. I heard that this young man is living in your house." Shiquan said blandly, "Sorry, my house does not have the young man you're looking for." He already understood that it was hard to be kind to Ensure Z, so his words were not very polite. Ensure Z said, "Is that so? Let me remind the Great Elder. That young man is called Lei Xingfeng. He also has a sister called Lei Xianyao. I want this pair of siblings. I wonder if the great elder is willing. Shi Quan said, Unsure Z, what do you mean? Unsure Z said, These two little fellows killed my great-grandson. Does the great elder want to cover for them? Shi Quan said, Cover for them? Ha ha, interesting, that bastard great-grandson of yours. If he is dead, then he is dead. Why do I need to cover for him? If I was there, he would have also been killed by me. This was the first time Hong Chan saw the great elder's toughness. He did not even put an intersect elder in his eyes, directly exposing him. And Sure Z was so angry he trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, Shi Quan, how are you? Good. You? Shi Quan interrupted him and said, I have always been very good. And Sure Z was so angry his hands were itching. He could not help but want to fight. Shi Quan said blandly, You dare to fight? Hong Shan could not help but take a step back. With the strength of these two people, once they fight, he did not want to be affected. And Sure Z suddenly calmed down. He said, Very good. I am also very good. Let's wait and see. I do not believe that you can always protect them. He turned and left, bringing his underlings with him. Both sides turned against each other. There was no room for negotiation. This was not surprising. How could Shi Quan be willing to hand over Lei Xingfeng and his sister, unless he did not want to live with Old Man Thunderstorm's temper? If he touched his grandson and granddaughter, the entire Hong Tong's power would be finished. Hong Chan smiled bitterly. What should we do? With the strength of these two people, once they turn against each other, the entire Hong Tong's power would be in turmoil. If they could not help but fight, who knows how many people would die in Hong Tong? Until Ensure Z left, Shi Quan's face became gloomy. He heard Ensure Z's threatening tone. He thought for a moment and immediately ordered his underlings to be on guard, ready to fight at any time. The most important thing was to not let anything happen to Lei Xingfeng and his sister. That would be a disaster. Lei Xingfeng did not care about what happened outside. If it happened again, he would still kill those people. He settled Lei Xingyao down and began to train in his room. In this period of time, Lei Xingfeng had been studying the contents of the Star Python record, working hard to strengthen his foundation. For this, he did not hesitate to slow down his training speed. But even so, he could still increase by 100 lunli every day. This speed was absolutely terrifying. In just 10 minutes, his lunli increased by 100. Then he began to train his Lei lunli, trying his best to purify his lunli. At the same time, he began to train some of the secret techniques in the Star Python records. These were all the Old Man Lei Bao's experiences. Many of them were the Old Man Lei Bao's supplementary explanations for his initial training after his training reached a high level. This allowed Xian Feng's foundation to be incomparably solid. He was very patient, slowly grinding his Lei lunli. If his Lei lunli was a piece of stubborn iron when he first started, then after his training, this stubborn iron had already become steel. If Wan Luanshe wanted to become a millwheel master, one of the conditions was that his lunli had to be above 100,000. Of course, this was only a condition. To become a millwheel master, there were other conditions. These were all recorded in the Star Python record. When he had nothing to do, Lei Xingfeng would ponder. After spending half a day, he finally finished training. At this time, a servant knocked on the door and came in to report that Shi Quan had come to visit him. Shi Quan and Hong Chan came in. Lei Xingfeng stepped forward and bowed. Grandpa Shi, Grandpa Du. Hong Chun looked at Lei Xingfeng's relaxed appearance. His heart sighed. This place was about to be turned upside down, but this little guy did not know anything. Shi Quan laughed, still used to it. Hee, from now on you will live here and leave. Lei Xingfeng nodded, and life here is not bad. Actually, he vaguely knew why Shi Quan came, but he did not care. With a Yi as his backing, he was not afraid. Shi Quan said, That's good, a phone. Don't go out for a while, just play at home. Lei Xingfeng said, That Eldarin came? Shi Quan laughed. No problem. With me here, they won't dare to do anything as long as you don't go out. It is still very safe at home. Wait for Ai to come back. Then you will be completely safe. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, Sorry to trouble Grandpa Shi. This was something he had to think. Actually, ever since he found out that he had killed an intersect elder's great-grandson, he knew that it would be troublesome, but he did not care. There was one thing he firmly believed. With Ai here, no one could touch him and his sister. He knew how powerful Yi was just based on the fact that Yi could fly in the sky. He was a great expert, enough to protect the two of them. Shi Quan's heart was at ease. He realized that Lei Xingfeng was not the kind of little brat who did not know the importance of things. He said, "Okay, what you want to eat, what you want to use, just tell the servants. No need to be courteous with them, understand?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay, I won't go out these few days, Grandpa Shi, don't worry." Only then did Shi Quan leave with Hong Chun. That night, Lei Xingfeng slept under Xi Niao's Kong bed. Since the floor was cushioned with thick bee skin and the Kong bed was warm, he did not feel cold. For 2 consecutive days, Lei Xingfeng slept in Xi Niao's room. But after 2 days, he did not dare to relax. On the night of the 3rd day, Lei Xingfeng felt some movement outside the room. He could not help but laugh coldly. In the end, he could not hold it in. He immediately got up and gently woke Xi Niao, signaling her not to make a sound. Carefully hiding Lei Xi Niao in a large wooden cabinet, he quietly tidied up the blanket. At a glance, it looked as if someone was sleeping under the blanket. Chapter 49. In these 3 days, Ensure Zi deployed his troops. His son was not in Hong Tong, but in a large sect outside. His son's cultivation had reached the level of a mill wheel master, which was not considered strong, but his son's master was different. He was a true Luanine master with 3 true ring bodies, an existence similar to Shi Quan. So he planned to ask his son's master to take action as long as he could restrain Shi Quan. At that time, Ensure Zi would personally kill Lei Xingfeng and Xi Niao. When Ensure Zi's son, and Denai, heard this news, he almost fainted. He only had one son, and thinking that it was dangerous outside and his own strength was not enough, he placed him in Ensure Zi's place. He did not expect that he would be killed, causing him to be furious. He immediately went to find his master, Trulin Yin Master Chunji, and did not hesitate to go bankrupt to take revenge. Chunji accepted his disciple's gift and agreed, bringing and Denai back to Hong Tong. For this, Chunji asked his senior to specially open the Luan spot and use the ancient Luan passage. Ensure Zi did not wait for Chunji's arrival and could not help but take action. On the 3rd day, he brought a group of men, including a few mill wheel masters and 7 or 8 Wan Luan Shi, attempting a sneak attack. If he could secretly kill Lei Xingfeng and Xi Niao, he believed that Shi Quan would not be able to do anything to him. Shi Quan's house was guarded by a large number of people. Even Hong Chun and his disciple lived in the same small building as Lei Xingfeng. After 3 days of gathering information, Ensure Zi found out that Lei Xingfeng and Xi Niao's house and launched his attack that night. Ensure Zi's attack was carried out brazenly, so the sound from the start was very loud. Lei Xingfeng hid Xi Niao and hid beside the cabinet, quietly waiting with a dagger in his hand. While Ensure Zi's subordinates were restraining Shi Quan's guards, he did not care about anything else and directly charged in, aiming at the room that Lei Xingfeng lived in, directly smashing through the window. In an instant, 2 palms landed on the heated bed, and with a loud bang, the heated bed collapsed. If there was someone on it, they would definitely become a pile of meat paste. Success. Just as this thought flashed past Ensure Zi's mind, he realized something was wrong. He used all his strength to strike, only to realize that there was no one on the heated bed. He did not think much and directly hit the wall. A large hole appeared in the wall as Ensure Zi charged into the living room. He stared at Xi Niao's room and laughed coldly as he charged in again. With a loud bang, someone barged in from the outside and shouted, "How dare you? Fight!" The 2 of them immediately started fighting. At this moment, Hong Chun arrived. Ensure Zi's speed was too fast. Even if Hong Chun was next door, he wouldn't be able to make it in time. Thus, he used the same method as Ensure Zi, directly breaking through the wall. Hong Chun was shocked to discover that he was not his opponent. Although he could still block a few attacks, he knew clearly that he had already lost. He did not hesitate to let out a long howl. Ensure Zi was enraged. He bellowed, "Asshole, die for me." In that moment, his entire body glowed with gold light. Boom! Shi Quan also barged in. He was also furious and roared, "And Zi sure." The 2 of them collided. Lei Xingfeng was hiding beside the cabinet when he heard the explosion outside. Following that, he heard Shi Quan's angry roar. In the next moment, there was an earth-shattering sound. The entire house shook violently, as if there was an earthquake. His heart was shocked. For the first time, he felt how weak he was, and also for the first time, he had a strong desire for power. Without power, he could only hide at the side, unable to protect his loved ones. Ensure Zi and Shi Quan fought once, and he suffered a little. Seeing Shi Quan and Hong Chun forming a pincer attack, he knew that he would not be able to take it. He laughed coldly and said, "I don't believe that you can always protect." His body fiercely charged backwards, directly creating a large hole in the wall, and he left the room. With a whistle, Ensure Zi brought his underlings and left. Shi Quan laughed coldly and said, "You will regret this." "Men." One of his underlings came in and said, "Great elder." Shi Quan said, "No need to chase. All of you guard the yard." He did not want to chase at all. As long as he could protect Lei Xingfeng and his sister, nothing else mattered. Hong Chan ran to Lei Xingfeng's room. He glanced around before coming out and said, "A phone is not in the room. Old brother, one of your underlings sold out the information, or else he would not have been able to find a Feng's room so accurately." Shi Quan nodded. Very accurate, directly barging into a Feng's room. At this time, Lei Xingfeng carried Lei Xan Yao out of the room and said, "Did they leave?" Shi Quan nodded. "They left. Luckily you were not in the room, or else we would not have been able to save them in time." Lei Xingfeng walked to his room and could not help but be secretly shocked. The entire heated bed had collapsed. Even the bee skin mats on the floor had shattered into small pieces. The ground had a few large cracks, and there were 2 large human-shaped holes in the wall. Shi Quan said, as expected of a guy with barbarian blood, leaving after one attack without any hesitation. He knew that he could not chase. If he did not guard this place, and a few more experts came, then the Lei Xingfeng siblings would really be in danger. Lei Xingfeng was secretly on guard. With the opponent's strength, he would not be able to take even one attack. If they were to face each other, then it would be a death situation. Even if his IU was stronger, he could only take revenge afterwards. But what use would that be? Shi Quan thought for a moment and said, "A phone. These few days you siblings will stay with me." I do not believe that he would dare to directly charge at me. He was gambling that he could hold on until Old Man Thunderstorm returned. At that time, there would be no problems, and he could borrow Old Man Thunderstorm's strength to eliminate in Zishur, and at the same time take over his underlings in power, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The only condition was that the Lei Xingfeng siblings were alive. As long as the brother and sister were alive, then the final victory would belong to Shi Quan. Changing rooms overnight, Lei Xingfeng and Xian Yao moved into the main building. The main building was extremely sturdy. Even if Zishur wanted to force his way in, he would not be able to. He would have to go through the door or window, otherwise he would not be able to enter. Strictly guarding. Even if Shi Quan was stronger than in Zishur, Shi Quan would not be able to instantly kill him. The Lei Xingfeng siblings were his weakness. As long as he grasped this weakness, Shi Quan would not be able to fight against him. But after this sneak attack, Shi Quan understood that in Zishur had completely thrown caution to the wind. Shi Quan played a trick. On the surface, he brought the brother and sister into his room, but secretly sent them to the secret room where he practiced, which was the underground secret room where he lived. Although Lei Xingfeng was unwilling, he understood that if he wanted to keep his life, then it was worth it to endure a little bit of suffering. The secret room was very small, only about 10 square meters. There was an air vent. Shi Quan had people spread a very thick fur on the floor and brought in bedding, a low table, and daily necessities such as a kettle. Lei Xingfeng was deeply stimulated this time. The thought of becoming strong circled in his mind. He finally understood that relying on his grandfather's strength was not enough. Only by becoming strong himself would he be truly strong. He had to seize the time to train. Xian Yao also knew that the problem was serious, so she was very obedient, tried her best not to cause trouble for her brother. Shi Quan warned a few words. He had already sent out many people to search for Old Man Thunderstorm. He also did not know where Old Man Thunderstorm went. When Old Man Thunderstorm left, He only said that he would be back soon. On the 23rd day, Chunji brought his disciple into Nai and arrived. Immediately, Ensure Z's strength swelled, with Chunji to deal with Shi Quan. Even if he could not kill his opponent, Ensure Z would be able to move freely at that time. Lei Xingfeng and Xan Yao would be fish on the chopping board. He could do whatever he wanted. After resting for a day, Ensure Z could not wait to invite Qinji. This time he would definitely not let the Lei Xingfeng siblings go. He even wanted to completely suppress Shi Quan. It would be best if he could kill Shi Quan. If he could not, then it would be good if he could heavily injure him. This way he could drive Shi Quan away. He could take the Great Elder's position and swallow up Shi Quan's power. This time it was not a sneak attack, but a swagger directly rushed into Shi Quan's courtyard. And when he met the guards of the courtyard, they were all knocked down. If they dared to resist, they were all quickly killed. The smell of blood immediately spread out. Ensure Z brought almost all the masters in his faction. The least of them were Wan Lun Shi, a total of 70 people, and rushed into Shi Quan's courtyard. Shi Quan sat in the courtyard. Behind him was the main building. He lightly said, Ensure Z, do you plan to destroy Hong Tong? It was difficult for practitioners to have children. Ensure Z had a son, a grandson. The grandson died 10 years ago, leaving behind a great-grandson. After being killed by Lei Xingfeng, he could be considered to have no descendants. With his temper and character, everyone who was involved deserved to die. Ensure Z laughed coldly. In Hong Tong, actually there are only a few people who have the final say. Among them you are the biggest. I have tolerated you for a long time. Since you want to protect those two little bastards, then you will have to pay the price. Shi Quan very calmly said, Oh, so that means you are actually targeting me? Ensure Z said, If you understand it that way, you are not wrong. I believe you will not be able to stop me today. Shi Quan said, You called for reinforcements? Aren't you going to introduce them? Ensure Z was pleased to be able to find a Luan master who condensed 3 true ring bodies. He could be considered to be very powerful. He said, Of course, this is my son's master, Chunji master. He is a Luan master. Chunji walked out from the crowd. He lightly smiled and said, I have long heard of Hong Tong Shi Quan Jinren. This time, I finally meet you. Shi Quan very lazily cupped his hands and said, I have long heard of your name. I have long heard of your name. His tone did not have a trace of respect. It was a perfunctory appearance. Chapter 50. Chunji's heart was instantly enraged. He had a noble identity and a high position. No matter where he went, he was the center of attention. No one dared to be rude to him. He did not expect Hong Tong's great elder to look down on him so casually, as if he was just a nobody. He was extremely unhappy, secretly fuming. He put on a fake smile and said, True Master Qi, such arrogance. Shi Quan remained seated. He said, If it was a guest, this true master would not be rude, but you are not my guest. Ensure Z was a bit suspicious because Shi Quan was too calm, and other than at the entrance where a few guards blocked for a while after entering, he did not see a single person. There was a problem. Chunji muttered in his heart. Shi Quan was also a true Lunin master like him. There was no reason for him to be so arrogant. He probed. All right, I'm not your guest, but you don't want an enemy, right? Shi Quan said indifferently. Nonsense, you're not my guest. Why did you come to my house? Ensure Z finally lost his patience. His temper was already very bad. He said, Don't talk nonsense. Hand over the 2 little bastards. Shi Quan slowly stood up, his face revealing a strange expression, and said, You want the 2 little fellows? Ensure Z said, If you hand over the 2 little bastards, maybe there is still room for negotiation. If not, don't blame me for being impolite. Shi Quan turned his head and said, A phone come out. A young man and a little girl walked out. Behind them was an unremarkable old man. The 3 of them slowly walked to Shi Quan's side. Ensure Z saw Lei Xingfeng's eyes turn red. He said, You killed Nku? Chunji casually glanced at Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xan Yao. His pupils suddenly shrunk. He could not help but blurt out, Single Lun imprint? Woo, single lightning Lun imprint. A wheel of life. Single Lun. He rubbed his eyes. It was too hard to believe. There were actually 2 single Lun imprints. It was like two pieces of gold in a pile of sand. And Shurzi did not react in time and said, "What single lun imprint?" Chunji pointed at the two children and said in shock, "Look carefully at these two children. They both have single lun imprints." Only then did Shurzi realize that these two children had frightening talents, but he immediately threw it to the back of his mind. Who cares what talent they had? They were the main culprits who killed his great-grandson. So what if they were single lun imprints? He was going to kill them. So what if it's a single wheel imprint? I won't let them off either. Chunji was extremely hesitant. What a joke. A single lun imprint was not easy to find, but he was invited by Shurzi. Even if he had other thoughts, he could not reject Shurzi's request. After all, Shurzi was also a true master. Although he was a level lower than him, it was not that much of a difference. The two of them were not separated by a large realm. If comparing a third true ring body to a fourth true ring body, the difference was also a level, but it was definitely different. Shiquan said, "Brother, you should understand now." The old man standing beside Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xianyao nodded, his face even revealing a slight smile. A mocking smile, he said, "And they're all people who wanted to kill my grandson and granddaughter. Brother, if they die, you won't be troubled anymore, right?" Shiquan nodded. "That's right. I've been troubled by him for a long time, a fellow with the blood of a barbarian, relying on his strength to be tyrannical and unreasonable. I can't even communicate with him. I'm too lazy to deal with him. Killing him will give me peace." The old man said, "All right, it's been a long time since I've killed anyone. Today's the first day." Then he said, "Protect a Feng and Yao Yao. Leave the rest to me. Let your men surround them. Don't run." And Shurzi was angered by the old man's words. He stepped forward and said, "Where did this crazy old man come from? If you want to die, I'll help you." The old man's face was brimming with a smile. He was very calm and said indifferently, "Little brat, you want to kill my grandson and granddaughter. You tell me, as a grandfather, how can I not interfere?" And Shurzi laughed loudly. "Good, very good. You three, grandfather and granddaughter, can pay for my great-grandson's life. Ha ha. I won't let you die immediately. I'll let you taste the taste of death bit by bit. I'll make you regret being born into this world." He gritted his teeth and said. The old man was still very calm. "Oh, really?" And Shurzi turned his head and said, "Brother Chun, please delay Shiquan. Leave the rest to me. I want to crush them bit by bit." He used his strength to crack his knuckles, releasing the sound of his knuckles. The old man couldn't help but laugh. He said, "A Feng, the so-called killing, is to kill until the opponent has no one left, or kill until the opponent doesn't even know it was you who killed them. If not, it will be very troublesome. You see, you killed a little brat, his parents ran out, you can't beat them, it is very troublesome. Remember in the future, if you want to kill, don't let anyone know or kill all of them." Lei Xingfeng was instantly speechless. When he killed Ku, he couldn't control himself at all. That's why he took his life. If it was according to his previous life's temper and character, he wouldn't have killed the opponent. Shiquan laughed bitterly in his heart. This was the style of a great demon. Either he doesn't make a move, or he makes a move and kills, not leaving behind any future troubles. And Shurzi scolded, "You're looking for death." He couldn't take it anymore and pounced forward. Chunji also pounced toward Shiquan, who knew that Shiquan took a step back, protecting Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xianyao. He didn't even plan to go forward. He whistled, and immediately many people appeared, surrounding the people Shurzi brought. A glaring light flashed, followed by the sound of thunder. In an instant, everyone felt dizzy. Lightning flashed. A human figure instantly shot out. Two terrifying lightning bolts. Two pitiful cries sounded. It was too fast. No one could see it clearly. When the light dissipated, two people were lying on the ground, and the old man didn't seem to have moved at all. The old man said, "With such weak cultivation, you dare to bare your fangs and brandish your claws against this old man. To be able to defeat two experts with two slaps. It wasn't that the two were weak, but that the old man was too strong. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. There was no way to compare." And Shurzi had the blood of a barbarian. His skin was rough, and his flesh was thick. If not, he wouldn't dare to fight against Shiquan. His defense was shocking. When he fought, even if it was an opponent a level higher than him, it would be hard to injure him. But he couldn't block a single slap from the old man. This slap actually made his whole body twitch, as if all the bones in his body were sucked out. He laid on the ground paralyzed. His whole body felt like it was on fire. Chunji was the same. He was also paralyzed on the ground. His eyes were filled with disbelief. His brain was a mess. In his life, he had never been slapped down by anyone. It was too strange and too scary. The people that Ensure Z brought were all scared silly. The two strongest leaders were knocked to the ground. They did not dare to move. Shiquan wasn't any better. He was extremely shocked. He originally thought that the old man would take a while to fight 1 against 2. Who knew that after 1 slap? The 2 were lying on the ground twitching. This was too exaggerated. He knew that the old man was strong, but he didn't know that he was strong to this extent. The old man continued to teach. A phone, when fighting, try your best. To kill in 1 hit. If you have absolute confidence, you can also do what I did. Knock them down, then you can do whatever you want. Hearing this, Lei Xingfeng felt a chill. He suddenly realized that his Yi was quite evil, but he would not have any objections. Shiquan started to use his connections to intimidate others. He said, "Are you all going to surrender or resist to the end?" With the great elder's prestige, the underlings of Ensure Z did not dare to resist. They all surrendered, including Ensure Z's son and Denai. The old man slowly walked to Ensure Z and Chunji's side. He said, "What did you say just now? You seemed to say something. To let me taste death in and what? To crush us bit by bit? Haha, I like to do whatever people tell me to do." Xian Yao said softly, "Brother, let's go back." The old man said, "Don't go back yet, Yao Yao, come here." Lei Xingfeng looked at Xian Yao worriedly. He brought her to the old man's side. He said softly, "Yi, Yao Yao is still young. She shouldn't watch this kind of scene for now." The old man shook his head and sighed. "It's fine. I only want to let her know, if you all fall into their hands, the consequences will be dire." Lei Xingfeng nodded. I know. Shiquan came over and said, "Old brother, how should we deal with them?" The old man said, "First destroy their cultivation. I don't think I need to remind you what to do next. I don't want them to live." Shiquan understood in his heart. The old man would definitely not let anyone threaten his grandson and granddaughter. Lei Xingfeng brought Xian Yao and left. He did not want his little sister to see such a cruel side. However, he did not oppose Ye's decision to deal with Ensure Z and the others. Only a dead enemy is a good enemy. Chunji's face was pale. He didn't expect that he would lose his life when he came here to earn some extra money. There was actually such a terrifying master here. Even his sect, a large sect, didn't seem to have such a powerful master. It would be difficult for him to survive this time. He said, "Senior, I'm from the Bowen Palace." Shiquan's face changed. He said, "Bowen Palace?" Chunji said, "Yes, I'm a member of Bowen Palace. Don't kill me." Shiquan knew about Bowen Palace. It was a large sect. Its strength was much stronger than Hong Tong. His heart was filled with fear. He looked at the old man and hesitated. He did not speak. The old man thunderstorm laughed coldly. "Bowen Palace. I don't care about any Bowen Palace people daring to kill my grandson and granddaughter. Then don't go back." Chunji shouted in despair. "If you kill me, Bowen Palace will not let you go." Chapter 51. The old man Lei Bao couldn't help but laugh. He said, "Back then, don't talk about Bowen Palace. Even Panjongdine's sect was slaughtered by me. It's your bad luck to provoke me, haha." Panjong de Ingate. That was a famous super sect, although it had declined over the years. It was still not something that Bowen Gong could compare to. Chunji trembled. Those who dared to say such words, he didn't need to be doubted. "Senior, please spare my life. Seeing that I haven't done anything yet, please let me go. I'll use all of my wealth to exchange for my life." Every true master cherished their lives. To be able to reach the level of a true Luanine master, they could live for at least 300 years. He hadn't lived long enough. He still wanted to improve. If he died here for no reason, it would be too unjust. According to the old man Lei Bao's temper in the past, he would have killed him with one slap. But after going into hibernation to heal his wounds, his temper and personality changed slightly. He started to think about other things and wouldn't do as he pleased. "Oh, all of your wealth? And fine, take it out and let me see. If I'm satisfied, maybe I'll spare your life." To raise his grandson and granddaughter. Even though Old Man Thunderstorm had quite a bit of savings, but there would be a lot of things to spend in the future, he wouldn't reject the windfall. This was also a thought he had after he had something to worry about. If it was before, he wouldn't even listen to the other party's begging and would just kill him to vent his anger. And sure, Z also begged for mercy. But the old man didn't even care. He was very clear that Chunji didn't have any deep hatred towards him. But ensure Z and him had an irreconcilable relationship. He didn't want to leave behind an enemy. Who knows if he would attract a powerful character. This time, he invited a true Lunin master, an expert with 3 true ring bodies. If he invited a 6 or 7 true ring body expert, then it would be a huge joke. After killing Ensure Z with one punch, Old Man Thunderstorm said, "As for the others, Brother Chi, you take care of them." He didn't torture Ensure Z. His habit was to cleanly kill his opponents. His way of venting his anger was to kill his opponents. After Ensure Z died, his Luan Chong space wouldn't appear. So in this world, killing and robbing wouldn't work. Maybe after 100 years, his Luan Chong space would completely collapse. Only then would his things appear. This world's practitioners also liked to hunt for treasures. This so-called treasure hunting, mainly in collapsed Luan Chong spaces, they could often find many good things. Using the threat of death, this kind of robbery, as Chunji taking the initiative to exchange for his life, it was very popular in this world. If you don't have money, you can still earn it back, but if you lose your life, then there's nothing left. Both of them swore. Chunji took out all of his belongings. The old man, Lei Bao, also swiftly kept them and said, "This time, I'll let you go, but if you're still not satisfied and come again, then don't blame me for being ruthless. You can leave." Chunji's head was covered in cold sweat. He didn't even turn his head and left. As for his disciple and Denai, he'll just treat it as if he's gone. He actually provoked such a powerful expert. This was simply harming his teacher. Even if a Denai could return alive, he wouldn't forgive this bastard disciple. After the old man Thunderstorm finished dealing with the matter, he returned to his room and said, "A phone. You have to quickly increase your strength. It's best if you can advance to Millwall Master. We'll go to Shirong Land. Your strength is still too weak. If you can advance to Millwall Master soon, you'll be able to protect yourself, and Yao Yao, I'll also be able to fight without worry." Lei Xingfeng bitterly laughed and said, "Yi, I'm afraid my foundation isn't solid enough." The old man said, "Don't worry, after so many days of tempering, you can already continue to quickly train. Don't be afraid. If there's any problem, I'll remind you." Lei Xian Yao hugged the old man's arm and said, Yi, when can I start training?" This matter made her very agitated. The old man said, Yao, be good. You're still young. You can't start training right now. You have to wait until you're 16 years old. Your main task now is to train your body. Only with a strong body can you train well. Or else even when you're 16 years old, you still won't be able to train. Lei Xian Yao actually already understood this principle, but she really couldn't stand being so weak. She sighed and said, I know. Her tangled little face made the old man and Lei Xingfeng laugh. This little fellow was a happy person, and also very sensible. No wonder the old man and Lei Xingfeng doted on him endlessly. Lei Xingfeng asked, Yi, is it settled? The old man nodded and said, It's settled. Chenji used his property to buy his life. He didn't say what happened to Ensure Z. Lei Xingfeng also didn't ask. The result was already known in his heart. Lei Xingfeng said, Yi, you were gone for so long, what happened? The old man played it down and said, Nothing much, I just arranged for a few people to spread some news, gather some people, we're in Shirong Land, we need some helpers, also send a message to your parents, tell them, we're already out. This was the first time Lei Xingfeng heard the old man talk about his parents. He nodded and didn't say anything. The old man asked curiously, You're not interested in news about your parents? Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. He didn't have any impression of them. Not to mention that this body didn't have the soul of the original person. He said, "There's nothing to be curious about. I have Yi and my little sister. That's enough." The old man couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He originally thought that he would die in Tiger Cliff Castle. So not long after Lei Xingyao was born, he chased their parents out and sent them to a large sect to arrange for them to receive the people and things he arranged before. He also didn't think that he would recover one day. Lei Xingyao didn't feel anything. She didn't have any feelings towards the word parents since young. It was her brother who took care of her. Yi wasn't even close to her brother. The old man thought that he could only wait until they meet their parents, then slowly cultivate their feelings towards these two little fellows. He felt very guilty. The old man had been fighting all his life. He didn't know how to console people. He also didn't know how to. Shi Quan busied himself for 10 days, finally stabilizing the whole Hong Tong. During this period of time, the old man personally accompanied Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xingyao to play in Hong Tong. This time, there were no accidents. Lei Xingfeng gradually began to understand this world. This world had a rather developed steel industry, textile industry, ceramic industry, and large-scale farming industry. But unfortunately, this world's power level was very low, so it always gave people the feeling that this was a backward world. At least this was a society that hadn't evolved to a technologically advanced society. But this society's life wasn't bad. Whether it was steel, textile, or farming, they were all very advanced. But the Hong Kong city Lei Xingfeng was currently in was still a small city in a wild mountain area. After a little analysis, Lei Xingfeng knew that this was a world without energy, chemical, or mechanical industries, which limited the development of science and technology. The only thing that made Lei Xingfeng feel strange was the development of the steel industry. There were many stalls and shops selling large amounts of steel products. No wonder the steel here was so cheap. Even the barbarians had enough steel weapons. Even if it was like this, Exine Feng was already very satisfied. What he was most afraid of was falling into a primitive society where he couldn't get what he wanted. That would be terrible. He didn't want the prosperity of his previous life, but he also didn't want to live a primitive life where he had to make everything himself. "This is a Lun spot?" Lei Xingfeng asked curiously. Thunderstorm laughed. "What do you think a Lun spot is?" A group of people stood in an open space. There was a strange slope here. It looked like it was formed naturally, but it was really strange. It looked like a huge piece of green stone stabbed into the ground. It was a few hundred meters long. In the middle of the slope was a very deep groove. That groove seemed to be drawn with a ruler. It stretched straight up. At the bottom of the slope was an open space. Thunderstorm said, "Let's go up." Other than Thunderstorm, Lei Xingfeng, and Lei Exanyao, there was also Shi Xian, Hong Chun, and his disciple. There was also a small team of 10 people. All of them were Wan Lunshi and Millwall masters, a total of 16 people. There were also 2 big horn bulls. They brought large amounts of supplies, of course. Everyone also brought their own things, all of which were placed in their own hidden Lun spaces. The group of people stood on the flat ground at the bottom of the slope. Under the command of the old man, they all stood in place. Everyone looked curiously at Thunderstorm. They wanted to see how he would open the Lun spot, opening the ancient Lun passage. Thunderstorm raised his hand. Immediately, a little lightning flew out from his palm, following which a Lei Yin appeared, releasing a loud thunderclap. Lei Yin's power made everyone tremble. Only Lei Xingfeng was unaffected, because he was also a lightning-type practitioner. He hugged Lei Exanyao, using his own lightning Lun power to protect the little girl, not letting Lei Yin's power affect her. The ancient Lun passage that could be opened with Yinli could also be opened with Lun Yinli. However, using Lun Yinli to open the passage was very strenuous, and it could not reach a long-distance Lun spot. It needed to go through one Lun spot after another, but using Yinli to open it did not have this problem. Yinli was already a high-level power. Thunderstorm could clearly feel the Lun spots in the distance. He quickly searched for Shi Rong land. Very quickly, he found 4 Lun spots, all of which were within Shi Rong land. After a slight identification, he found the Lun spot he needed, and through Lei Yin, he quickly communicated. Everyone was shocked to see that the groove in the middle of the slope was actually emitting a faint silver light. Then circles of Lun rings lit up from the bottom of the slope all the way to the top of the slope, about a few hundred circles appeared, lining up in a straight line along the groove. Thunderstorm said, "Everything is stable. It's about to start." Chapter 52. Everyone suddenly realized that they were lifted up by an invisible force. Lei Xingfeng also realized that he was about a foot above the ground. He was shocked. This was the first time he saw such a method. Lei Xingyao pointed at Lei Xingfeng's feet and said, "Yeah, we're flying. Brother, let me down. I want to try too." Lei Xingfeng was shocked and said, "Don't move, little girl, don't move." Calling her little girl meant that he was anxious. He could call Lei Xingyao Yao or little sister, but if he called her little girl, it meant that he was serious. Lei Xingyao immediately stopped moving. She angrily bit her finger. At this time, she suddenly heard the old man Thunderstorm shout, "Let's go." In an instant, everyone followed the path formed by the circle and flew out. Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but shout. Following the old man's loud laughter, everyone was like a cannonball, shooting out in an instant. Lei Xingfeng tightly hugged Lei Xingyao. He only felt that everything in front of him was a blur. He couldn't see his surroundings clearly. His heart was beating like a drum. It was very scary. The ancient Luan passage gave Lei Xingfeng the feeling of a roller coaster from his previous life. Roller coasters had a seat and a safety belt, but there was nothing here. It was even scarier, up and down, sometimes fast and sometimes slow. There were only changes in color, but nothing could be seen clearly. Dazzled, and coupled with the invisible pressure around them, everyone felt an extremely terrifying feeling. After a full 10 minutes, everyone suddenly felt their bodies lighten, and the scenery in front of them changed drastically. The first thing they felt was a gust of hot air blowing against their faces. Lei Xingfeng was shocked. Desert. The old man Thunderstorm had already put away Lei Yin and said, "That's right, this is the edge of the desert." Lei Xingyao was already shouting, "So hot, so hot." The scorching sun was like fire, steaming hot. One must know that this group of people were all wearing thick fur coats. They suddenly came from an extremely cold place to an extremely hot and dry place. That feeling was like ice and fire at the same time. Everyone was in a hurry and began to take off their fur coats. Lei Xingyao was shocked at first, but then she was overjoyed. She didn't like to wear so much, but now she could wear the silk dress that she had already chosen. The land of Shirong was also a barren land. However, it wasn't a mountainous area. It was a large area of desert, and there were countless oases. The oases here weren't small. They were large oases that covered thousands of square kilometers. As for the small oases, they were scattered all over the place, and there were countless of them. Shiquan said, "Old brother, there are a total of 3 big powers in Shirong land. One is Shirong country, one is Scorpion Alliance, and one is Mantra Trading Company. Shirong country occupies the largest oasis in Shirong land, and is also the country with the biggest power. Scorpion Alliance gathered a few dozen training sects, and their power is also considerable. As for Mantra Trading Company, they control the entire Shirong land's trade." The old man Thunderstorm said, "These 3 sects restrict each other and cooperate with each other. Their biggest enemy is the Shirong barbarians of Shirong land. The barbarians of Shirong land have always been very strong, but against the united humans, they were still chased to the edge of the desert." Shiquan nodded. "Yes, that's roughly the information I gathered." The old man Thunderstorm said, "Have you confirmed the location of the Luan Chong space?" Shiquan said, "Yes. Once the Luan Chong space appears, it won't move, but it's very hard to break. Shirong country, Scorpion Alliance, and Mantra Trading Company all claim that they have the right to materialize the Luan Chong space. The old man Thunderstorm said faintly, "Of course, but only with power can this be guaranteed, or else it's just a joke." Shiquan took out a map. Lei Xingfeng curiously went over to take a look, only to see that on the map there were circles, dots, and all sorts of crisscrossing lines. Lei Xingfeng was speechless. He couldn't understand at all. This map was too damn abstract. Very quickly, Shiquan found their current location and smiled. Not far ahead is Shirong's biggest oasis, where Shirong Kingdom is located. The place we came from is really a good location. We can save a lot of travel. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Ah yi, if we get lost to return to Tiger Cliff Castle. How long will it take? The old man Thunderstorm was instantly happy. He said, then that's troublesome. If there's a guy to bring us there, and we walk normally, I estimate 1 to 2 years, and this is based on the condition that we don't take the wrong path. If you walk by yourself, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, maybe you won't know where to go. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but stick out his tongue. Good fellow. So far, Yao, let's follow Yi closely. If we get lost, brother doesn't have the ability to go back. He didn't even know the direction home, not to mention walking back. Everyone tidied up, leading the 2 big horned bulls, stepping on the soft and hot sand. They walked slowly towards the oasis of Shirong country. Xian Yao was the happiest. She had never seen so much sand in her life. As she ran, she played with the sand. From time to time, she would pick up a handful of sand from the ground and throw out. Looking at the fine sand flying in the wind, she laughed happily. They walked from noon to sunset. They finally saw a trace of green. In the dry air, there was a trace of moisture. Don't look at how Hong Chun had already stepped into the ranks of a true master. In his life, he had never left Hong Tong's territory. Like everyone else, it was his first time walking in the desert. He said, look, that's the oasis. Yin Yin said, Master, I saw it too. It seems to be green. Shiquan said, we haven't arrived yet. That should be a normal oasis. We need to pass through this oasis to reach the oasis of Shirong country. Hong Chen couldn't help but shake his head, saying, we've walked for half a day. We haven't arrived yet. The old man Thunderstorm said, the desert is very big. The path we walked is already considered a short path. In the desert, walking for 8 to 10 days without seeing any green, that's a very normal thing. Hong Chun said, we can see very far here, not like where we came from. It's foggy. Our vision is always bad. The old man Thunderstorm said, that's because there's no wind. Once there's wind in the desert, it's just like where we came from. We can't see anything clearly. And what's that sound? He tilted his head to listen. Everyone listened carefully, but no one heard any sound. They saw the old man Thunderstorm's body suddenly flash with a dazzling light. In an instant, he flew into the air. Shiquan's mouth was wide open. Only now did he know that the old man was at least a true ring body, a true treasure luning expert, or even higher, because only a true treasure luning expert can fly into the air. Hong Chun and his disciple, as well as a group of Wanlun Shi and Millwheel masters, were also shocked. In their hearts they understood that the old man was a truly terrifying expert. After a few minutes, the old man Thunderstorm landed. He said, let's go. There's a battle ahead. Everyone was shocked. Lei Xingfeng immediately waved his hand to call back Xian Yao, who was still running around. His current mission was to protect the little girl's safety. Once he heard that there was a battle ahead, he immediately called her back. He said, Yao, are you tired? Xian Yao took deep breaths, running like crazy, playing like crazy all the way. She was actually very tired. She said, brother, I'm tired. Lei Xingfeng said, come, brother will carry you. Saying so, he squatted down. The little girl happily climbed onto Lei Xingfeng's back. Giggling, she said, okay. The group suddenly increased their speed, quickly moving forward. In less than 5 minutes, everyone heard the faint sounds of fighting coming from afar. All of their expressions became serious. They were all experts in fighting. Within Hong Tong's sphere of influence, there were countless barbarian tribes. Every year, to suppress the barbarian tribes, Hong Tong had to send out experts. They often needed to go out and fight, so towards fighting, they did not care much. The reason why they became serious was because this place was too unfamiliar, and they were not familiar with the fighting environment. They had some misgivings in their hearts. When the small group climbed up a tall sand dune, they saw a group of desert barbarians surrounding a group of people. This group of people were guarding a few dozen sandboats, as well as a few dozen tall sandtoa beasts. Lei Xingfeng said, these are the desert barbarians? There was a certain degree of similarity to the forest barbarians. They were all tall and boorish, but what was different from the forest barbarians was that the desert barbarians here were almost completely naked. with only a piece of skin covering their crotch. Their skin was full of all kinds of patterns. It was unknown whether it was tattooed on or drawn on the spot, but in any case, it was a riot of colors. This group of people in Hong Tong's sphere of influence, they often fought with the barbarians, so they were all too familiar with the barbarians. They carefully observed the differences between the desert barbarians. The strong barbarians could even fight with a 1,000 master. It must be known that in the human world, there were many mortals. Those who could reach the level of a 1,000 master were actually very few. A 1,000 master in a sect may not be much, but in the mortal world, they were terrifying fighting machines. Hundreds of ordinary people with fighting experience may not be able to defeat a 1,000 master, so the talented barbarians were born to be strong warriors. Wen Yin was careful. After a moment of observation, she said, "There are about 120 to 140 barbarians. That besieged group should have about 550 to 600 people, those with fighting ability. At most 200 people, among them the strong ones, that is, those who have trained, will not be more than 10 people. Not bad. With these 10 people, they can actually hold on, but I don't think highly of this group." Old Man Thunderstorm said, "Not bad. Little guy's observation is very detailed." Wen Yin immediately raised her head, her face revealing a smile. To be able to be praised by a super expert like Thunderstorm, she was really happy. Even Hong Chun revealed a smile. He had always liked this disciple. For his disciple to be praised, he also felt very happy. Lei Xingfeng said, "The desert barbarians have discovered us." Chapter 53. A low horn sounded. Yin said, "That team sent us a distress signal." Shi Quan said, "That's right. The people here use the horn to send messages. It's the same as where we come from." "Brother, should we save them?" Their team was actually led by the Old Man Thunderstorm. He was only the leader in name. After all, the people in the team were mostly from Hong Kong. Thunderstorm said, "Of course we should save them. We are not familiar with this place. Saving them is like saving a guide. We can also communicate with them and understand the situation." Shi Quan nodded. "Good. Chi Tian Yao, you lead the team and eliminate these barbarians." Thunderstorm said, "A Feng, you go too. Put Yao Yao down. You need to train more. Fighting is the best way to learn." Lei Xingfeng put down Xine Yao and said, "Yao Yao, follow Ai. Don't run around. Brother will go for a while. I'll be back soon." Xine Yao said, "Brother, be careful." She would not stop Lei Xingfeng from fighting. In this world, fighting was a very glorious thing. Chi Tian Yao was Shi Quan's nephew, Millwall Master. Unfortunately, he could no longer level up. He was now the actual commander of the team. He said, "Prepare your weapons and prepare to attack." Hong Chen said, "Yin, you go too." Yin laughed. "Okay, I haven't fought in a long time." His master had always cherished this disciple. He was not willing to send her to dangerous battles. But this kind of battle was not dangerous. As a Millwall Master, as long as it was not one against 10 barbarians, there would be no danger. Lei Xingfeng took out his black bow. His hidden Luin space, after leveling up, had also become bigger. Although it could not be compared to a Millwall Master's space, it could still store quite a few things. With the hidden Luin space, his black bow's power increased greatly. Because arrows could be directly taken out from the hidden Luin space, he had placed 100 arrows in the hidden Luin space, enough for him to use for a long time. Most Millwall Masters and below used weapons to unleash their Lunli. Only a sage of the mill wheel with one true ring body could freely use Lunli to attack. Chi Tian Yao shouted, "Let's go and kill the barbarians." There was a total of 12 people in the small team. The lowest level was a 1,000 master, and the highest was a Millwall Master. Their strength was extremely strong, and dealing with 100 barbarians was not difficult at all. Lei Xingfeng was at the back of the small team. His mission was to snipe from afar. With the power of his black bow, the barbarians would have a hard time blocking it. The troops on the other side let out a burst of cheers, followed by another burst of noise. This was because they realized that there were only a dozen or so of them. Their group of 500 to 600 could barely withstand the barbarians' attack. What use would these dozen or so barbarians be? Was he courting death? The first to attack was Lei Xingfeng. After the barbarians discovered them, 7 or 8 barbarians flew up to meet them. The barbarians thought that with a dozen or so people, they only needed to send out a few people to kill them all. It was no wonder that the barbarians were so arrogant. When normal people faced barbarians, it was indeed hard to do anything. No matter if it was strength or fighting spirit, they were much stronger than normal people. But against Lei Xingfeng's small team, these barbarians were not their opponents. Just like how they bullied normal people, practitioners bullied barbarians, which was even sharper. Ping! The sound of metal colliding was heard. An arrow shot out and a barbarian fell. This arrow directly pierced through the barbarian's forehead. No matter how good the barbarian's body was, he could not block this kind of attack. When it killed him, following that was the sound of metal colliding. Black shadows flashed past, and barbarians fell one by one. Without waiting for the small team to come into contact with the barbarians that rushed over were all killed by Lei Xingfeng. Shi Quan and Hong Chun could not help but praise. What a powerful bow! Yin Yin could not help but shout, Lei Xingfeng, you killed too quickly. Lei Xingfeng laughed and quickly ran forward to the side of the dead barbarians. He quickly put away the arrows. These arrows were made of pure steel and were very precious. They could be used again after some slight repairs. He could not bear to throw them away. Immediately, the surrounded team let out a loud cheer. They had already realized the strength of the newcomers. The barbarians' attack immediately slowed down. They had already felt that something was wrong. No normal person would have such terrifying archery skills. It must be known that even if the arrows hit the barbarians, with the barbarians' thick skin, an arrow would not be able to pierce through, especially the hard forehead. But Lei Xingfeng's arrows not only pierced through, but also sent the charging barbarians flying. This kind of power was definitely very scary. The barbarians immediately stopped their attack and turned towards the 12 people. They could instinctively feel a strong threat. More than 100 barbarians madly rushed over. Qi Tian Yao roared, "Kill!" He held the steel spear in his hand and suddenly jumped up. The steel spear swept horizontally. Qi Tian Yao's opponent was holding a steel club that was as thick as a bowl. When it collided with his steel spear that was as thick as a duck egg, the barbarian's face revealed a sinister smile. He believed that his steel club would definitely be able to send his opponent flying. Guangdang. Qi Tian Yao had metal and earth attributed Lunli. With the support of metal attributed Lunli, the steel spear was really indestructible. With just one attack, the barbarian could not believe it and retreated. What made him most frightened was the steel club in his hand. The steel club that was as thick as a bowl was actually bent. Without waiting for him to react, Qi Tian Yao's spear pierced forward. He did not even have time to block. With a shout, he waved his arm to block. With a cautious sound, the barbarian's arm was broken. Qi Tian Yao had already reached his side. With a backhand, he slapped the barbarian's back. Punk! The barbarian immediately fell to the ground. This slap had completely shattered his spine. Closely following behind Qi Tian Yao was 1,000 Luan Master. With a stomp, the barbarian's head exploded. Lei Xingfeng continued to shoot arrows one after another. As if he was forging iron, the bowstring made ping, pang, pang, pang sounds. One barbarian after another fell to the ground. Just as they came into contact, more than 10 barbarians had died. Immediately, the barbarians panicked. This kind of slaughter, even the barbarians could not handle it. Their numbers were originally small, especially the barbarian tribes. Only the warriors of the barbarian tribes came out. Once the casualties were too great, their tribe could be swallowed up by other barbarian tribes. So when a barbarian let out a roar, the barbarians behind him who were still charging immediately turned and ran. 12 people followed to kill. However, the desert barbarian's speed of escape was too fast. These practitioners who came out from the forest were not used to it. Other than Lei Xingfeng, who was still shooting arrows one after another, the others could not catch up. Very quickly, Qi Tian Yao ordered, "Everyone come back." Lei Xingfeng also stopped shooting. Every barbarian that was targeted by his bow could not escape. They were all killed with one arrow. This fellow specialized in shooting the head. Adding on his accurate archery, As long as the barbarians were targeted by him, they would not be able to escape. Instead, he killed the most barbarians. Yin Yin was very unhappy. She had only killed one barbarian, and the other one had escaped. Lei Xingfeng alone killed 16 barbarians. Adding up the others, they only killed 21 barbarians. There were still more than 10 injured barbarians that escaped. Hong Chun led the two bighorn bulls, Old Man Thunderstorm and Shi Quan. The three of them slowly walked down the sand dune towards the group that was surrounded. A group of people walked out from the group, and both sides quickly met up. This was a caravan from the Montua Company. The Montua Company was one of the biggest powers in Shirong land. This caravan could be considered a small-scale caravan. If it was a medium or large-scale caravan, the barbarians would not dare to surround and attack it. That was because medium or large-scale caravans usually had many practitioners. However, this small-scale caravan only had a few practitioners, and they were all low-level practitioners. The highest was only 1,000 Luan Master. In this caravan, there were only 10 or so practitioners. Among them, the strongest was 100 Luan Master, and he was an old 100 Luan Master. The rest were all small Luan Masters, and belonged to those who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation. However, their aptitude was very poor. After 10 or so years of cultivation, they still could not reach 100 Luan Master. Of course, they were much stronger than normal people, and were the warriors that the small caravan first recruited. Old Man Thunderstorm, Shi Quan, and Hong Chun did not plan to come out and negotiate. With their status and position, they disdained to negotiate with a caravan member. The task fell on Qi Tian Yao and Lei Xingfeng. The reason why Lei Xingfeng was added was because Old Man Thunderstorm wanted him to train. Only by going through all kinds of things could one learn how to deal with matters. Old Man Thunderstorm had previously suffered from this. When he first came out, he was already an expert. He did not know how to communicate, and what was worse was that his temper was irritable. Once there was a disagreement, he would start a fight. His cultivation was also high, and it was not strange for him to kill someone. He had attracted countless troubles, so he wanted to let Lei Xingfeng train. After all, with him supporting him from behind, even if Lei Xingfeng did something wrong, or even got into trouble, he would be able to help settle it. The leader of the Montua firm was a young man, around 20 years old. He was not a practitioner. He had already talked with the guard leader and knew that these people in front of him were Luan Masters. As for what level they were, he was not sure. He only knew that these people were very powerful and could not be offended. Qi Tian Yao stepped forward and said, "I am Qi Tian Yao, Millwall Master. I am in charge here." Lei Xingfeng said, "Lei Xingfeng, Wan Luan Shi." The leader of the caravan said, "Greetings, sirs. I am Tuluan Yao, the leader of the caravan." Qi Tian Yao said, "You are from the Montua family?" Lei Xingfeng was still confused. "Euro bird? Was there such a bird?" Tua Luan Yao nodded. "Yes, I am from the Montua family. Thank you for your help." Qi Tian Yao said, "No need to thank me. This kind of thing, as long as you see it, no one would sit by and do nothing. May I ask, are you going to Shirong country?" Tua Luan Yao said, "That's right, we are going to Shirong country." When he knew that Qi Tian Yao and the rest were also going to Shirong country, he immediately invited them, hoping that they could go together. Qi Tian Yao did not reject. He originally wanted to go with the caravan to get some information. The news of the caravan was the best. After all, they had traveled extensively, they had seen and heard a lot. They knew a lot of news. Chapter 54. When the group arrived at the caravan, they saw a dozen corpses lying on the sand. There were also a dozen people sitting on the ground. Many of them had broken arms and legs. It could be seen how intense the battle between them and the barbarians was. Toluo Yao said, "Luckily you guys came at the right time. We were just surrounded and you guys appeared. If you were to delay any longer, there would probably be more casualties." Lei Xingfeng noticed that no matter if it was Qi Tian Yao or Yin Yin, the people in their group were all very arrogant. Other than him and Qi Tian Yao talking to the other party, the others did not say a word, only curiously looking around. As for Thunderstorm, who came up later, Shi Quan and Hong Chun kept their mouths shut. This was probably the natural barrier between practitioners and normal people. In this world, practitioners did not look up to normal people. Tualuo Niao's attitude showed that normal people, even if he was a direct descendant of a big power, would still be extremely respectful to practitioners. Qi Tian Yao turned around and discussed with Shi Quan, and basically decided that they would follow the caravan. Tualuo Niao immediately arranged a few sandboats for them to sit on. Lei Xingfeng noticed that the sandboats were very interesting. There were wheels on both sides, but these wheels were raised and did not touch the ground. After a little inspection, he understood that the wheels could be lowered, which meant that on the sandboats would slide on the sand, and out of the desert, the wheels could be lowered, thus becoming a wheeled vehicle. The design was very exquisite. The sandboats were pulled by Santua beasts. Santua beasts were a special animal in Shirong land. Their characteristics were similar to the camels in Lei Xingfeng's previous world, but their appearance was completely different, more like a tortoise, as if a tortoise was squeezed from both sides. It had thick and strong limbs. Of course, it did not have the hard shell of a tortoise. Its body had thick and long fur. Its body was huge. With one step, it could move 5 to 6 meters. 10 desert hunting dogs were scattered in the group. These dogs were used for warning. Their noses were very sensitive. Once they smelled the scent of barbarians, they would go berserk, one of the best dogs in the desert. Tualuo Niao ordered his subordinates to burn the corpses. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously why not bury them. The members of the caravan all showed a surprised expression. As if this question was stupid, Tualuo Niao did not dare to show a look of disdain. He explained, "We cannot bury them, because the barbarians' noses are very sensitive. If we bury them in the sand, they will dig them out and eat them." Lei Xingfeng felt a wave of disgust. He laughed bitterly and shook his head. These barbarians did not care about meat and dared to eat anything. Very quickly, the caravan again. Sitting on the sandboat, Xian Yao was very excited. It was her first time sitting on this kind of car. The sand boat glided on the sand, making a slight rustling sound. Sitting on the sandboat, she didn't feel any bumps at all. It was abnormally stable. Moreover, the body of the sandboat was very wide. On both sides of the sandboat were huge wheels that form a railing. The 10 of the 10, the 8. The sky darkened, and the oasis in front became clearer. Tualuo Niao rode a Santua beast and ran over. He came to Lei Xingfeng's sandboat and said, "We are about to reach the campsite. It is not far ahead." Lei Xingfeng nodded, "Okay." Tualuo Niao urged the Santua beast to run away. He loudly commanded the group. Lei Xingfeng said, "Yi, we're going to Shirong Nation. Is that place also in Shirong Nation?" The old man, Thunderstorm, sat cross-legged. He laughed. "Of course it is not in Shirong Nation. Shirong Nation is the meeting point I set. I still have some friends coming. With just our strength, it is not enough, especially to fight for this kind of treasure. If we go without preparation, we will definitely die. Also, I need to make arrangements for Yao Yao. You can follow me. Yao Yao's strength is too weak. If something happens, we will not be able to take it." Lei Xian Yao was instantly unhappy. She said, "Yi, don't leave me behind." The old man, Thunderstorm, lightly rubbed Lei Xian Yao's head. He laughed bitterly and said, "Yao Yao, you can't distract Yi and brother. If not, we will die." Lei Xian Yao was instantly frightened. She said, "I don't want Yi and brother to die." Her tears were already in her eyes. Lei Xingfeng immediately hugged her and said softly, "It's okay. Yi and brother will be fine. Yi is so strong. Yao Yao, don't cry." He glared at the old man, Thunderstorm. The old man, Thunderstorm, laughed bitterly again. He raised his hand and said, all right, I won't say anything. You persuade her." He knew that Lei Xingfeng pampered this little girl more than him. He would not let her suffer any grievances. However, Lei Xingfeng agreed to temporarily place Lei Xian Yao in a safe place. He was also worried that Lei Xian Yao had not reached the age of cultivation. She was only 6 years old. She was even weaker than a normal person. It was too dangerous to fight for the hidden Luin space with them. No matter how strong the old man, Thunderstorm, was, there would always be times when he was careless. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Lei Xian Yao was affected, he would definitely go crazy. While comforting Lei Xianyao, he thought about the hidden Luen space. According to the records of the star python, the hidden Luen space was only a little big at the beginning. It could reach an unimaginable size at the end. The most mysterious thing was that after the owner died, the hidden Luen space could actually form a small world. Of course, this small world was not eternal. After 10,000 years, it would start to collapse. When the small world collapsed, many precious things would appear. For example, the hidden Luen space of a gold-attributed super expert. After the appearance, it would form a small world, and after the erosion of time, until it collapsed, then large amounts of rare gold-attributed ores would appear. It could even form large amounts of gold-attributed ores to gold-attributed practitioners. It was an absolute treasure. The other attributed hidden Luen spaces were the same. So there were all kinds of treasures in this world. Most of them formed from hidden Luen spaces. Every time a hidden Luen space appeared, there would be a bloody storm. Countless experts would appear. Many of them were old monsters with unimaginable levels of cultivation. If one wanted to fight for this kind of treasure without any strength, it would be no different than sending oneself to death. There were also some smart fellows who would wait until the end of the fight before picking up the leftovers. But even so, they could still find many good things. The sky finally darkened. Torches were lit one after another. Tuoluo Niao urged them to speed up. Lei Xianyao was sweating profusely from the heat. She said, "Brother, it's so hot. I want to drink water." She had already drunk a large amount of water. Lei Xingfeng was also sweating profusely. He said, "Yao Yao, this place is different from our home. The desert is like this. After a while, it will become cold." He already knew about the desert climate. Once it was late at night, it would become rather cold. There were shouts in front. The old man, Thunderstorm, laughed. "We're here." Luckily, we followed the caravan. If we walked here by ourselves, we would have been late. Lei Xianyao said in surprise, "Brother, I hear the sound of water. There's water. I want to bathe." There was a large pond. There was a small river flowing horizontally. There were large amounts of shrubs growing on the ground. There were also large amounts of wild grass and reeds. Under the light of the torches, one could clearly see the reflection of the water surface. Under Tuoluo Niao's command, the caravan members started to organize the sandboats and sandtua beasts. They had to first feed the sandtua beasts and then surround the sandboats into a defensive formation. Only then could they settle their own food and water needs. Shiquan's group did not need the caravan to settle their food and water needs. They all brought sufficient food and water. Very quickly a bonfire was lit. The small group of people sat around the bonfire. Lei Xingfeng went to the side of the water and fetched a bucket of water for the old man and his sister to wash their faces. A few members started to take out some cured meat and started to roast it. It was all fresh meat that had not been cured for long. Among them, there was a large amount of bull meat. This kind of meat was rather tasty and rich in nutrients. It could replenish the body's energy. When Tuoluo Niao's caravan finished their work and started to prepare food and water, Lei Xingfeng and the rest had already started to eat. The caravan specially prepared tents. Lei Xingfeng discovered that the caravan only had a few dozen people with status outside of the tents. The rest of the people slept in their clothes. They relied on the bonfire to resist the cold of the desert night. The old man, Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xianyao shared a tent. Lei Xianyao was young, so she always slept with Lei Xingfeng. When it was almost dawn, the old man suddenly sat up. His movement woke Lei Xingfeng up. He said softly, "Ayi, what's wrong?" The old man said softly, "There are people coming a lot. About 700-800, not barbarians." Lei Xingfeng was not as powerful as the old man. Naturally, he could not detect it. He said, "Are they passing by coincidentally, or are they coming specifically for this place?" The old man snorted coldly. "They should be coming specifically for this place. They're all carrying weapons and sneaking over. They will be here in a few hundred meters." Lei Xingfeng sighed and said, "Everywhere is not peaceful. Should we remind them?" The old man laughed. "Now that we are all together, I believe they will not let anyone go." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, then I'll do it." He carried Lei Xianyao and walked out of the tent. He raised his head and let out a long whistle. He then shouted, "Enemy attack!" Immediately, The camp was in chaos. Most of the people were sleeping in their clothes, so they immediately jumped up, holding their weapons, and shouted, "Enemy attack? Where? Where?" Actually, there was another person who also noticed. Shi Quan was only a bit later than the old man. After all, he was also an expert with 3 true ring bodies. No matter how careful the other party was, his voice was still heard. Hearing Lei Xingfeng's whistle, he could not help but laugh and said, "Interesting, this caravan's owner's luck is really bad." Chapter 55. Lei Xingfeng's roar immediately caused chaos in the camp. The guards all jumped up from the ground. The guard captain and leader of the caravan also rushed out of the tent. All of them were disheveled as they shouted and asked about the situation. Shi Quan and the rest also came out of the tent. They quickly gathered together. Shi Quan said, "Everyone be on guard. There are a large number of people surrounding us." Tua Luo Niao shouted loudly. The sand boats were originally arranged in an arc. The Sand Tua beasts had specialized people protecting them. Luo Niao was angry and anxious. He quickly arranged the troops and arranged everyone behind the sand boats. After he arranged everything, he immediately ran towards Lei Xingfeng's side. Gradually, even Lei Xingfeng heard the commotion. Tua Luo Niao ran in front of them and said, "Is it the barbarians?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Not the barbarians, hee, I say." Tua Luo Niao, "Did you offend someone? There are so many people coming over." Tua Luo Niao said nervously, "Many people? Desert bandits?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "I don't know, you better light more bonfires." In the night before dawn, it was almost impossible to see one's 5 fingers. They all relied on the light from the bonfires to illuminate the camp. Tua Luo Niao's face was filled with anger. Being attacked by the barbarians was one thing, but to be attacked by humans made him furious. He heard and said, "Everyone take care. I'll go find people to light the fire." He did not dare to let these experts help. He immediately ordered his subordinates to light up a large number of bonfires, immediately lighting up the surroundings. Thunderstorm sighed. "All right, let's not stand here. Leave a few people to guard this place. A Feng, you protect Yao Yao. Let's see who came to disturb our rest." Chi Tian Yao said, "Luo Niao really has a lot of enemies. Hee, look at how nervous he is." Lei Xingfeng entered the tent. Xing Yao had already woken up. She sat on the ground in a daze and said so noisy, "Brother, is it morning?" Lei Xing Yao's confused look was very cute. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "It's okay. Get up and watch the show. Someone is coming." The people in the camp were all hiding behind the sandboats. Among them, there was a 30-man archer team. The others were all holding weapons. Among them, the most powerful 10 were walking back and forth, ready to attack at any time. These 10 were all practitioners. Unfortunately, the most powerful was only a 100 Lun master, which was only slightly stronger than normal people. Bringing Lei Xing Yao out of the tent, Lei Xingfeng saw Yin and said, "Yin." Yan's expression was cold. She said, "What?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Help me look after Yao Yao. My hands are itchy. I want to go and play." Thunderstorm looked at Yin, and Hong Chun smiled. "No problem. Yin, you take care of the little girl." Yin did not dare to not listen to her master's words, but she was a little unwilling. She also wanted to go and fight. For people like them, fighting was actually the best learning opportunity. She said, "Okay, Yao Yao, come to sister." Lei Xing Yao was very smart. Seeing Yan's unwillingness, she said, "Sister, no need. I'll follow ye. Brother, you be careful." Lei Xingfeng really wanted to try out some of his attacking techniques. This kind of low-risk battle was a good chance for him to train. He smiled and said, "Who's going with me?" Chi Tian Yao said, "I'll bring a few people to help." Chi Quan said, "Don't worry. If the opponent has experts, you don't have to risk your lives. Just leave it to me." The old man Thunderstorm smiled. "There shouldn't be any strong experts coming. I didn't find any real experts." His senses were usually not wrong. Unless the opponent had a treasure that was good at hiding their chi, they would not be able to escape his detection. A few thousand Lin masters and Wan Lin sure walked out. They were all people who liked to fight, following Chi Tian Yao and Lei Xingfeng to the defensive circle formed by the sandboats. Tualuo Niao saw them coming and could not help but be overjoyed. He had noticed from the start that this group of people were all powerful experts. Even if a few came, they would be of great help. Tualuo Niao went forward to thank him. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand and said, "No need to thank me. I'm only here to play. Also, give me 100 arrows." His arm moved, and a black bow appeared in his hand. The surrounding people showed an envious expression. This kind of storage method was something only practitioners could have, normal people could not have. Lei Xingfeng did not want to use his own arrows. Those were all specially made arrows. They were very useful against barbarians and prey, but to use them against normal people, it was too wasteful. Tualuo Niao immediately asked people to send over arrows, not just 100, but 200. Lei Xingfeng checked. The quality of the arrows was quite good. Of course, it was different from the specially made pure steel arrows. These were arrows used by normal people, but he felt that it was enough. Kill! Suddenly, there was a roar from outside, followed by countless of people moving under the dark red light of the bonfire. Who knew how many people came to attack? Bong! 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 The 30-people archery team pulled their bows and released arrows. The attack power of this world's arrows was very average. Unless it was a black bow like Lei Xingfeng's, specially made, only then would it have a strong attack power. Normal arrows had a high chance of injuring people, but it was very difficult to kill them. This was because the people of this world had better defensive leather armor. If the arrow did not directly hit the vital parts, such as the eyes, it was very difficult to kill. Xian Feng spoke. "These people are all well-trained. Their attacks aren't weak." As he spoke, he shot an arrow. The sound of metal clashing could be heard from the bowstring, instantly killing one of the men who had climbed onto the sandboat. In just one exchange, both sides suffered heavy casualties. Qi Tianyao and the rest did not go to the front line to kill. They only stood behind the resisting crowd. Once someone broke through the defensive circle and rushed in, they would then attack, instantly killing those who entered. Both sides added up to less than 1,000 people. But Lei Xingfeng felt that there were countless people. There were people moving everywhere, blood and flesh flying everywhere. This feeling made him extremely excited. This was completely different from a small-scale battle. There were shouts and screams of death all around. This was the first time he saw the cruelty of a large-scale battle. A few people wearing leather armor. Just as they broke through the defensive circle, they saw Lei Xingfeng standing at the side. A few of them roared loudly and rushed over. Each of them had a ferocious expression. That kind of crazy and indomitable aura was quite scary. Lei Xingfeng was not afraid. After all, he was not someone who had not experienced battle, especially when the opponent was just a normal person. He did not have any fear in his heart. He drew his bow and shot out arrows one after another. Every arrow shot into the opponent's head. Those people did not even rush in front of him. They all fell to the ground. Yin also did not go forward. She stood not far from Lei Xingfeng. Anyone who entered her attack range would be killed like lightning. Thunderstorm, Shi Quan, and Hong Chun, the three great experts, stood at the back. The three of them disdained to make a move. If any of them made a move, these people would not be able to withstand a single blow. However, for experts of their level, as long as normal people did not attack them, they would not make a move. Moreover, Qi Tianyao and the rest did not take the initiative to attack. They were waiting passively. If they took the initiative to attack, the result would be the same. Those people would not be able to resist. The smell of blood spread. The air was filled with the smell of rust. One person after another fell. The killing of normal people was even more cruel than the killing of practitioners. Every moment, there was a large number of people dying. The caravan's people were decreasing rapidly. The opponent's strength was obviously much stronger. Although the caravan had 500 to 600 people, there were less than 300 battle guards, while the opponent had more than 800 battle guards. If not for the defensive circle formed by the sandboats, they would have collapsed long ago. After holding on for about 10 minutes, the caravan finally could not hold on anymore. They retreated and were quickly surrounded by this group of people. Lei Xingfeng and the rest quickly retreated to where Old Man Thunderstorm was. He said, "Are we going to go all out?" Shi Quan laughed. "I really want to know. Who are the people who attacked the caravan? Thunderstorm said indifferently, there will be a result soon. Tualuo Niao and the rest were forced to continuously retreat. They were not stupid. One by one they retreated towards where Shi Quan and the rest were. After a while, there was no place to retreat. The opponent did not seem to have the intention to make a move. Very quickly a dozen people came out. One of them said, Tualuo Niao, come out, stop hiding. Tualuo Niao could not continue to hide. He clenched his teeth and walked out of the crowd. He said, who are you? Actually, he already had an answer in his heart. A person walked out laughing from the crowd. He said, Tualuo Niao, you also have a day like this, ha 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 ha. That was a skinny man. According to this world's average size, this person was really skinny. Lei Xingfeng estimated that this person was at most 1.5 m. After careful observation, this person should be a normal person, not a practitioner. Tualuo Niao was shocked and angry. He said to Ta, sure, it's you. Ta sure laughed. That's right, it's me. I didn't think you would still remember me, ha ha ha. Lei Xingfeng said softly, Ta sure? Interesting. This should be from the same family, right? Killing each other? Tualuo Niao said, Ta sure, you are a pile of dog shit. If I didn't let you go, you would have died. I didn't think you didn't dare to take revenge on the main culprit, but came to take revenge on me. Ta sure laughed coldly. You are also an accomplice. Don't worry. Those who harmed me, I won't forgive a single one of them. Tualuo Niao said, when the fuck did I become an accomplice? This matter has nothing to do with me. Fuck you. It's Tua Yishur who has a grudge against you. You fucking bullied his sister. Of course he won't let you go. If I didn't mediate, do you think you could live? Lei Xingfeng's eyes twitched. From the argument, he realized that this skinny guy was not a good person. Ta sure said, so what? You all deserve to die. As long as I have the chance, I won't let any of you go. Chapter 56. Tualuo Niao said hatefully, you are a pile of dog shit. I should have let Tua Yishur beat you to death. Ta sure laughed loudly. Ha, ha, do you regret it? Ha, there's no use in regretting. Although you were forced like a dog by Tua Yishur, but I won't let you go, you all. You all have to die. Ha ha. I'm really happy. Actually, even if I don't kill you, as long as I completely destroy your merchant group, destroy your people, even if you go back to Yishur won't let you go, ha ha. Xian Yao said softly. This person is so hateful. His laughter is so unpleasant to hear. Tualuo Niao said, do you plan to kill all of us? Ta sure said, of course. Tualuo Niao suddenly laughed strangely. He said, you can try. He suddenly thought of that mysterious group. Every one of them were strong practitioners. Two large men walked out from the group behind Ta sure. One of them said, Ta sure, why are you talking so much nonsense? Leave the things behind. Everyone strip. The women stay, the men. Forget it. The men will let you go. Put down your weapons. Strip naked. And you can leave. Ta sure said anxiously, boss, you can't let them go. Pa! That person slapped Ta sure and shouted, what do you know? Scram to the side. A trace of hatred flashed past Ta sure's eyes. He did not dare to speak anymore and scampered to the side. Tualuo Niao burst out laughing. He said, Ta sure, I didn't expect you to still be so useless. Calling you a pile of dog shit is already praising you. You can't even compare to a pile of dog shit. How did our Tua family produce such a thing? The old man Thunderstorm said softly. Hee, interesting. When these men put down their weapons, they won't be far from death. Lei Xingfeng thought for a while and understood. He gave everyone a path, and a harsh one, but they did not need to continue fighting. This was an oasis. Even if they stole everything, they would not be in danger. With a trace of hope, these people would not risk their lives. This way the other side could reduce the casualties. After putting down their weapons, the other side would turn hostile. These people would no longer be a threat. That person stepped forward and said, do you understand my words? As long as you give up resisting, I can spare your lives. Tualuo Niao laughed coldly. Who doesn't know what you desert bandits are thinking? Put down your weapons, so that you can kill to your heart's content. Stop king dreaming. No one here will be fooled. Only that pile of dog shit would believe your words. Bah! That person raised his hand, and a ball of fire hit the ground. He said indifferently, Sha Luo Nei's strength is here. Do I need to deceive you? Hong Chen laughed. Motherfucker, a little thousand Luan master is also so arrogant. Simply preposterous. Tuo Niao's heart turned cold. He was most afraid of encountering practitioners. He said, Don't talk nonsense. Don't even think about making us put down our weapons. He was unusually strong-willed. This confidence was actually related to Lei, Xingfeng, and the others. After all, there were more than 10 powerful cultivators in the team, and they all had this kind of confidence. Sha Luo Nei said in exasperation, All right, you want to die, right? Then I'll grant you your wish. Tuo Luo Niao took a step back. Without waiting for the opponent to make a move, he waved his hand fiercely. The people of the caravan retreated like a tide, revealing Shi Quan and the others. Lei Xingfeng could not help but laugh and said, This guy is too crafty. Hong Chen said, He's not crafty, just a little smart. He doesn't dare to ask for help from us, so he can only put us out and let us directly clash with the opponent. This way they'll be safe. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, If we just leave, I think he'll vomit blood. Shi Quan said, He won't vomit blood, but he'll definitely die. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, As expected, that group of people is coming for us. Sha Luo Nei laughed coldly and said, Where can you all retreat to? He walked forward step by step. Suddenly, he noticed that the 10 people in front of him were not behaving normally. These 10 people were too calm, and with their gorgeous appearance, all of them had an extraordinary presence, not like normal people. He could not help but feel suspicious. I'll say it again, surrender and you can live. If you resist, you'll be killed, your choice. Sha Luo Nei suddenly felt uncertain. He waved his hand, and 7 or 8 people came up behind him. They were all low-level practitioners, the highest being 100 Luan Master. They were the core members of the Desert Bandits. They lined up in a row and slowly approached. Qi Tian Yao said, I'll do it. I didn't think that there would be 1,000 Luan Master that would be a bandit. So useless. Lei Xingfeng, of course, would not let go of this chance to fight. He extended his hand and asked for a steel spear and laughed, Count me in. And also walked out and said, I'll do it too. This kind of low-intensity battle was the most suitable for her. Due to Hong Chen's protection, her battle experience was relatively little. With such a suitable chance, she did not want to let it go. The other team members also wanted to go forward. Thunderstorm laughed and said, 3 people are enough anymore, and it won't be interesting. 2 mill wheel masters and a lightning-type Wan Lun Sure. This was already a rather frightening and luxurious lineup. Against a group of desert bandits, it was indeed a bit excessive. Qi Tian Yao said, I'll deal with that Sha Luo Nei. I'll leave the rest to you. Yin said, The other practitioners are all mine. Lei Xingfeng said unhappily, How can there be such a distribution? Normal desert bandits, who would be willing to fight? Qi Tian Yao laughed. Who asked you to be the weakest? Yin could not help but laugh and said, That's right, that's right. Little brother, your strength is the weakest, so you should deal with the weakest desert bandits. Lei Xingfeng muttered, If I had time to train, I don't know who would be the stronger one. Saying this, he suddenly stabbed his spear into the ground. A black bow appeared in his hand, and an arrow was shot out. Bang! That arrow shot toward Sha Luo Nei. Qi Tian Yao shouted, That's mine. Don't snatch it. Following this, he pounced forward. 1,000 Lun Masters could condense their own Lunly armor, so this arrow could not break through the defense of the Lunly armor. However, it made Sha Luo Nei continuously retreat. This arrow also completely exploded into pieces. Following this, Sha Luo Nei reacted. The person who shot the arrow was a practitioner. If he was not a practitioner, it was impossible for him to shoot such a powerful arrow. Without waiting for him to speak, he saw a person pouncing towards him. He could not help but be shocked. Sha Luo Nei shouted, Go! Kill them! And also pounced forward. Only Lei Xingfeng stood still. He sighed and said, Outrageous! Snatching my food! I have no interest in killing normal people. The desert bandits rushed forward like a tide. Many of them were rushing towards Lei Xingfeng because he was standing at the front. Lei Xingfeng originally wanted to stop, but he did not expect that when he stopped, the desert bandits would not let him, who told him to have the appearance of a young man without any killing power. Other than his powerful bow, the desert bandits did not think that this little fellow would know how to fight. They estimated that if they rushed in front of him, this child would cry. Sighing, Lei Xingfeng kept his black bow and pulled out the spear that was stabbed into the ground. He coldly laughed. You all think that I'm easy to bully, right? Come, brother, you can do it. Xian Yao's clear childish voice sounded. Xian Feng waved his spear and laughed. Little sister, watch me kill the enemy. When Lei Xingfeng made his move, the desert bandits who rushed forward regretted. Lei Xingfeng did not rush forward, but instead fought along a line. Anyone who dared to cross this invisible line would be mercilessly killed by him. He did not use Lei Lunli and only used a spear to kill. Wan Luanshe, no matter if it was strength or defense, these desert bandits could not compare to him. Like the wind, in a few breaths, more than 10 desert bandits fell to the ground. The originally invisible line was formed because of the desert bandits' corpses. Wan Luanshe could condense a ring armor on his body, which was of a much higher level than Sha Luonei's Lunli armor. The desert bandits could occasionally attack Lei Xingfeng, but the ring armor's defense was extremely strong. Adding on the fact that Lei Xingfeng was of the lightning attribute, every time they attacked Lei Xingfeng, the lightning on his body would counterattack, causing the desert bandits to tremble and be unable to move. Then they would be killed by Lei Xingfeng. In just a few minutes, at least 100 of the desert bandits died. The corpses on the ground were piled up. Qi Tian Yao and Sha Luo Nei fought together. However, Qi Tian Yao kept on teasing him. In his hand was also a spear. He did not stab, but only whip. Qi Tian Yao was purely oppressive. The spear kept on striking Sha Luonei's body, making pa-pa-pa sounds. At the beginning, Sha Luo Nei could still use his Lunli armor to block, but after 7 or 8 strikes, his Lunli armor collapsed. The difference between the two was too big. A mill-wheel master and 1,000 Luon master. A mill-wheel master could beat people up with his eyes closed. Sha Luo Nei quickly tasted the difference. He then realized that something was wrong. The opponent was too strong. In the midst of the chaos, he saw Yin Yan's slaughtering methods. His own subordinates had already suffered heavy casualties. Just a young man who came out and quickly killed more than 100 people. His scalp was numb. He desperately retreated and at the same time shouted, "Stop! Stop!" Qi Tian Yao laughed and scolded. "You want to fight, and you want to stop, and you want to stop? Who do you think I am?" He raised his spear and beat him up. He beat Sha Luo Nei until his nose was blue and his eyes were purple. His whole body was twitching. Only then did he stop and said, "Okay, you can tell your subordinates to stop attacking." Sha Luo Nei was beaten until his Lunli was scattered. He almost could not stand. He shouted, "All of you fucking stop." Tuo Luo Niao also started to restrain his subordinates. The current losses were too much for him to bear. Out of the 300 people who could fight, only 100 people were left. Among them, close to 200 people had fallen. At least 70 to 80 people died. He did not want to continue fighting. Both sides stopped fighting. Lei Xingfeng then realized that he had killed quite a lot of people. On the ground in front of him, there were piles of corpses. One must know that when encountering his spear, almost no one could block it. They were all killed in one shot. He also did not want to continue fighting. This kind of killing was meaningless, although the opponents were desert bandits who did all kinds of evil. Chapter 57. Sha Luo Nei was stepped on the ground by Qi Tian Yao. He had already lost the strength to resist. He said, "You are Wan Luanshe?" Qi Tian Yao laughed. Qi Tian Yao, mill-wheel master. Sha Luo Nei cursed in his heart. A mill-wheel master hiding in the caravan. This was too much of a scam. He said, "Senior, I didn't know Senior was a Millwall master, Chi Tian Yao said with a grin. Aren't you very powerful? You want the women to stay and the men to strip? Hee hee, really fucking impressive. Tell your men to put down their weapons immediately. Strip all of them. Saying so, he let go of his leg and crossed his arms, looking like he was watching a show. Sha Luo and I was so scared that his legs went soft. He bargained, put down your weapons. Strip, then forget it, Senior, this. This is too ugly. Chi Tian Yao fiercely kicked him and said, ugly? You still know how fucking ugly it is? You are a practitioner, a 1,000 Lun master, who knows how many times stronger than a desert bandit as a desert bandit. Don't care if it's ugly or good-looking, strip. Lei Xingfeng could not help but want to laugh. He did not expect this serious Chi Tian Yao to have this kind of face. Sha Luo and Ei could not resist. His life and death was really in the opponent's hands, and he clearly felt that the opponent did not have much killing intent, looking like he was having fun. If he were to be stubborn, he probably would not have a good ending. He was forced to the point that he had no choice. He could only shout, put down your weapons, strip your armor and clothes. Senior, I'll strip my armor, clothes, forget about clothes. Chi Tian Yao said, what's with all this nonsense, strip? The group of men threw down their weapons and began to strip. Yin spat. She said, you are not allowed to strip. Lei Xingfeng remembered that his sister was still watching from behind. He also shouted, you don't need to take off your underwear. Sha Luo and Ei finally let out a sigh of relief. Although there was no danger to his life, but to a 1,000 Lun master, it was hard to raise his head in this lifetime. It was too ugly. Chi Tian Yao was originally just playing a prank. That's why when Yin spoke, he no longer persisted and waved his hand in agreement. When Sha Luo and Ei stripped down to only a pair of gray underpants, he lifted his leg and kicked, saying, follow me. Sha Luo and Ei followed him uneasily and arrived in front of everyone. Chi Tian Yao said, go, greet the 3 seniors. Sha Luo and Ei discovered the 3 old men. His heart was beating wildly. Chi Tian Yao was a mill wheel master. What was the strength of the seniors he spoke of? He was already cursing Tuata sure in his mind. He bowed respectfully and said, Sha Luo Na greets all seniors. Sha Luo Na did not know seniors were here. Please excuse me. He was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Thunderstorm and Shiquan did not speak. Hong Chun said, we are too lazy to care about your trash matters, but you shouldn't have attacked us. Sha Luo and Ei wanted to cry, but had no tears. He had been tricked. Not only had his subordinates tricked him, even the caravan had tricked him. He had already understood that these people were definitely not from the caravan. He had been used as a tool. I didn't know. Seniors, I apologize. I will compensate. Hong Chun said, how to settle this, you and the caravan can discuss it yourselves. All right, you can leave. It was hard for him to reason with a small 1,000 Lun master, and it was impossible for him to start a massacre and kill all of these desert bandits. Killing these desert bandits would not give him any sense of accomplishment. Sha Luo, he said in disbelief, Senior, you won't pursue this matter? Hong Chen laughed and scolded. You really want me to pursue this matter? Sha Luo and Ei was overjoyed. No. Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior, for your magnanimity. He kept retreating. Tuo Luo Niao used this chance to bring people to surround all of the desert bandits. He also kept his weapons and armor. Facing a large group of desert bandits who had lost their weapons, he specially sent people to capture Tuata Shur. After Sha Luo Nei left this group of terrifying practitioners, he turned around and walked towards his own group. After all, he was a practitioner. Even if the caravan was the victor, they would not dare to go too far. The caravan did not have the strength to keep 1,000 Lun master. Tuo Luo Niao brought a few low-level Lun masters and came in front of Sha Luo and Ei. He said, your people have already been captured by us. What do you plan to do? Sha Luo and Ei did not want to continue at all. This time he fell into a big hole. His luck was really bad. He stared and said, plan my ass, I lost. You tell me, what should I do? Tuo Niao really did not dare to do anything. He said, "Leave one person behind." Sha Luo and Ei immediately understood and said, "I'll give Tashir to you. This bastard, he made me suffer such a huge loss. Even if you don't do anything to him, I won't forgive him." Tuo Luo Niao said, "Also, you have to compensate for our losses." Sha Luo and Ei said, "Compensate for what losses? I also suffered a huge loss here. Do you think it was you who defeated us? If it wasn't for those people, would you still be standing in front of me? Don't go too far, if not, I'll go all out." Tuo Luo Niao's heart tightened. He knew that if he offended this person, he would really be entangled with him in the future. At that time, it would not be easy. He said, "So many of our people died, we will have to spend a huge sum of money as compensation. You can't leave without compensating anything." A leather bag suddenly appeared in Sha Luonei's hand. He threw it to Tuo Luo Niao and said, "Here are 300 gold rings. I only have that much wealth. Also, you have to return the clothes, armor, and weapons to us." Tuo Luo Niao shook his head. What a joke. If he gave them the weapons, and if they turned against him, it would be another battle. He said, "I'll give you the clothes, but I can't give you the armor and weapons." Actually, Sha Luo and Ei was just saying, to be able to get back the clothes and not let his underlings leave naked, he had already achieved his goal. With that group of practitioners around, to him, the pressure was too huge. The earlier he left, the better. He did not want to continue staying here. He said, "Okay, give us the clothes, I don't want the rest." Tuo Luo Niao did not want to continue arguing and said straightforwardly, "Okay, deal." With 300 gold rings, he could already compensate for some losses. Of course, his losses were not just 300 gold rings. But at this point, he could only admit his loss. Who asked his strength to be inferior to others? This result already made him very satisfied. Sha Luo and Ei came to the front of his underlings who were surrounded and said, "Put on your clothes, we're leaving." In a moment, the desert bandits retreated like a tide and quickly disappeared. Tuo Luo Niao saw the desert bandits leave and finally relaxed. He said, "Bring Tuo Tashir here." Revenge against Tuo Tashir was certain. Of course, Shi Quan and his group were not interested. At this time, the sky had already turned white. A night had passed. This oasis was not where Shiron country was. This was a very small oasis. After passing through this oasis, after walking for another 2 days, they would truly enter the huge oasis where Shiron country was located. Actually, this could not be considered an oasis anymore. It should be considered a very large piece of green land. It was considered a hilly area with large amounts of swamps and rivers. It was completely different from a desert. After Shi Quan and his group entered Shiron country, they immediately separated from Tuo Luo Niao's caravan. They entered a border city of Shiron country. It was a very small city. Because of the Shiron country's border troops stationed here, this place started to prosper. It had a population of 50 to 60,000. The garrison was about 3,000 people. This city was called Majin City. Although there were not many people, but because this area produced sand gold, there were many gold diggers. Today, a group of people drove 2 bighorn bulls and 3 sand tuo beasts into Majin City. Lei Xingfeng looked at the city curiously. It was different from Hong Tong City. This city was very messy and dirty. The ground was filled with animal feces. The road was a complete mess. Rubbish was piled up and mosquitoes flew everywhere. The houses on the side of the street were even more tattered. There was a stinky smell that made people want to vomit. Because it was close to the desert, the weather here was extremely hot. Most of the people wore long robes and covered their heads. Lei Xn Yao asked curiously, "Brother, why are they wearing so much? Aren't they hot? It's so weird. Why are they covering their heads?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Wearing robes is probably to block the sun. Uncovering their heads. You see so many bugs, it should be to block the bugs." He was also guessing. Yin said, "This place is really dirty and smelly." They were used to living in the forest. Not only was the air there good, the environment was clean. They had never seen such a dirty place. The most common shops on the side of the street were gold shops. On their signboards, it was written that they could exchange sand gold for money. There were also shops that sold food. There were also large amounts of private brothels. They were all targeted at gold diggers and the army. Yin said, "Master, we won't be staying here, right?" Hong Chen said, "I don't know. Let's see what everyone thinks. However, there aren't many inns here." Thunderstorm said, "The weather here is hot and there is little rain. We can just build a shed in the wild. We don't even need a shed. Find a clean place and light a pile of insect-repellent grass. We can sleep anywhere. Who would want to stay in an inn?" Shiquan laughed. "We don't need to stay in the city. This place, even if I don't pay attention to it, I can't stand it. It's too dirty." Hong Chen nodded. "That's right. This is the first time I've seen such a dirty place. If you let me stay here, I won't be used to it." Thunderstorm said, "We will pass through the city. We won't stay here." Just as they walked out of Majin City, they were blocked by a group of Shirong soldiers. There were about 100 soldiers. Lei Xingfeng was very interested in the soldiers of this place. This was the first time he had seen the soldiers of this world. In the mountains, there were no countries at all. They were all areas of influence. Different from countries, the various powers did not have a strict organization structure. They were all based on the level of their strength. Once something happened, the various factions would discuss and then work together to solve the problem. Chapter 58. But a country was different. A country raised a strong military force. The army was the backbone of a country. Therefore, a country was more organized, more violent, and more efficient than the sections. At first glance, Lei Xingfeng's impression was that this country's army was very ordinary. The uniforms the soldiers wore were very old. The weapons in their hands were also very ordinary. Their equipment was not as good as the Tiger Cliff Castle's hunters. The leather armor on their bodies was very simple. It only protected the chest and the back. There was no protection in other places. The soldiers' faces were dark. Although they were not malnourished, they were definitely not in their best condition. Their bodies were average. There were no particularly tall people. They held spears in their hands. The so-called spear was a long wooden handle. The tip of the spear was a foot-long steel spear. To Lei Xingfeng and the others, it was an inconceivable thing. In their hometown, a wooden spear was definitely not good. Just a little bit of strength, and the wooden handle would definitely break. Qi Tian Yao stepped forward and said, "What's the matter?" His expression was very cold. The captain of the soldiers said, "These two, what kind of livestock are they? Why haven't I seen them before?" Qi Tian Yao was surprised and said, "This is a big-horned cow. What's the problem?" He did not know that the big-horned cow was a specialty of the mountains. There is no such livestock here. The captain curiously said, "This big-horned cow, can it be eaten?" Everyone was stunned. What kind of question was this? Lei Xingfeng vaguely guessed in his heart. He stepped forward and said, "The meat of the big-horned cow is not bad. It can be eaten. However, very few people eat the big-horned cow. This livestock is the best camel beast." The captain happily said, "Sure enough, I heard others say that beef is the best. Unfortunately, we don't have any cows here." "All right, can you give us a big-horned cow?" Qi Tian Yao said, "Give you a big-horned cow? What do you mean? How?" The captain said, "Well, we want to buy this big-horned cow." Qi Tian Yao laughed. "You want to eat the big-horned cow?" The captain nodded and said, "Yes, we have never eaten beef before. That's why we want to exchange for this big-horned cow." Qi Tian Yao said, "It's not impossible, but there are still many things on the bull's back. If the big-horned bull is given to you, no one will be able to carry those things." The captain said, "We'll use Santua beast to exchange. 2 for 1, how about it?" Lei Xingfeng secretly nodded his head. At least these soldiers did not forcefully take it. They only wanted to exchange it. This was not bad. They were a group of foreigners if they met the local army, if they forcefully snatched it. Unless you were very strong, otherwise it would be in vain. You would have no place to redress your grievances. If the other party forcefully snatched it, Qi Tian Yao could teach the other party a lesson, but the other party only asked for an exchange. In fact, the bighorn bulls were not very useful in this area. The climate here was hot, and these bighorn bulls had already shown signs of fatigue. Since the other party was easy to talk to, Chi Tian Yao did not care. He said, 3 Santua beasts. These 2 bighorn bulls are yours. You have more than 100 people. 1 bighorn bull is not enough to eat. The captain was overjoyed and said, since it's like this, I invite you to the barracks. We have a lot of Santua beasts there. You can choose one. The captain's name was Wei Zhenglong. He was the leader of the guards of the barracks commander. Their commander was also a strange person, very delicious. He often let Wei Zhenglong go out to find some strange things to eat. After a long time, Wei Zhenglong also had a headache. The things that could be eaten in a place were always limited. Where could he find new food? So when he saw the bighorn bulls, he was immediately attracted. The barracks was only a few miles away from Majin City. Everyone quickly arrived at the barracks. Wei Zhenglong's subordinates had already ran to the commander to report. Just as they entered the barracks, a big fat man brought a dozen people over. He said, Zhenglong, I heard you found something good. Let me see. Wei Zhenglong ran over and said, Sir, I found a bighorn bull. There's beef to eat. The big fat man's eyes lit up. He said happily, really? How could there be a bull here? It's really a bull. He looked at the bighorn bull's huge body. He could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. The old man Thunderstorm, Qi Xian, Hong Chun, and the others were all dumbfounded. This fatty was definitely one of the best. Looking at the bighorn bull, he could actually swallow his saliva, a standard foodie. Only then did the big fat man greet Chi Tian Yao and the others. He said, I am the commander of this barracks, Jean Depang, nicknamed Fatty. All right, Millwall Master. May I ask who you are? This guy was also a practitioner, and seemed to be a very young practitioner. No wonder he was already the commander of this barracks. Chi Tian Yao said, Chi Tian Yao, Millwall Master. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Jean Depang's attention was always on the bighorn bull. When he suddenly heard Chi Tian Yao's words, he was also shocked. This place was very remote. Very few practitioners came here. So when he heard Millwall Master, he immediately paid attention. Because Jean Depang was a practitioner and also a Millwall Master, he already had the qualifications to let others register. Yin Yin said, Yin Yin, Millwall Master, this is my master, Du Hong Chun, true Millwall Master. Jean Depang was really scared this time. True Millwall Master. That was an expert who had already condensed 1 true ring body. Just him alone could sweep through the entire barracks. He muttered in his heart, Zhenglong, this brat, I told you to go find food, not to find a true Millwall Master, his mother. Don't ever offend this kind of expert. Qi Xian laughed. Qi Xian, true Lun Yin Master. Jean Depang's legs went soft. He almost sat on the ground. He roared in his heart. True Lun Yin Master, 3 true ring bodies. Lousy has hit the jackpot. Such an expert actually came to Majin City. Luckily, the old man Thunderstorm didn't introduce himself. If he did, Jean Depang would probably be paralyzed on the ground. In the end, even Lei Xingfeng introduced himself. Lei Xingfeng, Wan Luan Shi. Jean Depang discovered that other than the old man and the child, the weakest was at least 1,000 Luan Master. What kind of team was this? It was simply too scary. 2 true masters, a group of experts. Wei Zhenglong was also scared silly. He couldn't help but secretly rejoice. He didn't know why his attitude was so good just now. He didn't seem to be easy to talk to before. He didn't think that his good mood would actually let him escape a disaster. If he had forcefully snatched the bighorn bull, the entire barracks would be finished. He was only a small 100 Luan Master. Moreover, he had just reached the level of 100 Luan Master. In this team, any one of them could crush him to death, except for that little girl. Jean Depang respectfully stepped forward and bowed, saying, Depang greets the 2 seniors. Qi Xian said, Wrong. Jean Depang's heart was beating wildly. He hurriedly said, Senior, where did I go wrong? Qi Xian pointed at the old man and said, He is my brother, and also my senior, so it is 3 seniors, not 2. Jean Depang felt that his pitiful heart was about to explode. A true Luan Yin Master senior? You can scare me to death, but this old man is even scarier. Can you not be like this? I just want to eat some meat. Is there a need to be so scary? He said, Greetings, 3 seniors. Please come my tent. Please, please. The old man Thunderstorm said, All right, let's go sit together. We haven't eaten yet. Let's borrow the barracks to cook some food. When Jean Depang heard about food, his spirit was immediately lifted, saying, I have the best chef in Majin City and also the best ingredients in Majin City. Please come and taste it. Sorry, I only like to eat. I don't care about anything else. Chi Tian Yao said, get someone to take the big horn bull and also bring 3 Santua beasts. Jean Depang hurriedly declined. I really didn't know it was senior this. Let's forget about the big horn bull. Chi Tian Yao said, no need to decline. Since it's decided, there's no need to go back on it. Jean Depang said, okay, Zhenglong, you do it. Bring 3 good Santa beasts. We can't let senior suffer. Quickly go, quickly go. Wei Zhenglong brought a few subordinates and put down the goods on the big horn bull. Only then did he let someone take the bull and leave. On the other side, Jean Depang had already politely invited everyone to his tent. The so-called big tent was a tent made of oilcloth and felt, but this tent was very big, and it was completely empty on all sides. It was a shed to block the sunlight. The inside of the tent was full of chairs. The inside of the tent was very cool, coming in from the hot outside. Everyone felt a chill. Xing Yao couldn't help but say, it's so cool here. Jean Depang proudly said, there's a cold spring here, so my tent is especially cool. Hi hey, this is the best place in Majin City. Cool and comfortable. It's a pity that I can't build a house here, otherwise it would be even more comfortable. This fellow was purely a hedonist. Lei Xingfeng said, Big brother Jean, why did you come with the army? With your current level, no matter where you go, it would be better than here, right? Jean Depang admired Lei Xingfeng, a youngster who was already Wanlun sure. At first glance, he was the kind of person with unlimited potential. Even if he didn't curry favor with this kind of person, he definitely couldn't offend him. Who knows what height he would grow to in the future? Jean Depang said, little brother, in Shirong country. Every practitioner who isn't in a sect has to serve the country. The army is actually a very good choice. It's nothing more than fighting the barbarians with my level. Even if there are more barbarians, I can still escape if I can't win. I also eat a lot. The salary of the army is high. I can run around, and there are many people who can help me find food. Hi hey, I joined the army when I was 1,000 Luan master. It's been 10 years. I'm doing pretty well. Lei Xingfeng smacked his lips. Big brother Jean, you're really amazing. For food, you're willing to do anything. Jean Depang proudly laughed. He said, Zhenglong, arrange the best banquet. Prepare the most sumptuous food. I'm going to treat. Chapter 59. The meal was to everyone's satisfaction. Jean Depang was indeed a big foodie. He was very particular about the way he ate. Even though Lei Xingfeng had eaten countless delicacies in his past life, he still admired Jean Depang's cooking. This man was definitely a person who knew how to enjoy himself. Especially Lei Xing Yao. The pitiful little fellow had always been happy as long as she was full. Suddenly eating such delicious food, she immediately stuffed herself and kept burping. Then she hugged her stomach and hummed, praising the food nonstop. Jean Depang's mouth was full of oil. He kept praising the delicious taste of the bighorn beef. Then he lamented that after eating these 2 bighorn cows, it would be hard to find such good meat again. Wei Zhenglong brought a group of soldiers in to clean up. Jean Depang ordered him to make a pot of ink flower tea. This ink flower tea was a local specialty. It was good for digestion, especially for digestion. It could help with digestion. It was Jean Depang's favorite. Lei Xingfeng tasted it. This ink flower tea was indeed very good. The taste was a bit bitter, but the aftertaste was sweet and refreshing. He specifically asked Jean Depang for some ink flower tea. It was a type of dried black flower that was rolled into small balls. Once it was boiled, it would immediately bloom in the water. It was a very interesting drink. Xing Yao drank a little, and the bloating in her stomach quickly disappeared. Everyone chatted for a while and bought some food from Jean Depang. As for meat, they brought a lot from Hong Tong City, enough for the team to eat for a few months. The place Elder Thunderstorm wanted to go wasn't the capital of Shirong country, but a place called Stellar Night Fortress. Stellar Night Fortress wasn't a city, but a place where practitioners gathered. It was very famous in Shi country because most of the people here were practitioners. The officials of Shi country never dared to go there. This place was a no man's land. Shi Quan specifically asked, Jean Depang, have you been to Stellar Night Fortress? Jean Depang immediately felt relieved. He said, Stellar Night Fortress, ah? This place is chaotic. Don't go if you don't have a bit of strength. Of course you guys can go. Thunderstorm asked, how far is this place from Stellar Night Fortress? Jean Depang replied, it's not far, but it's not near either. It depends on which way you choose. If you take a shortcut, you'll arrive in 7 or 8 days. But if you follow the normal route, you'll need around 20 or 30 days. But there's a problem with taking a shortcut. You'll have to go through the barbarians' territory. This route isn't easy to traverse. Most people would choose to take the normal route. Thunderstorm said, well, let's take the shortcut. Do you have a map? Jean Depang hurriedly said, yes, Zhenglong, give me the map. Wei Zhenglong brought a military map. It was a very detailed leather map. This map recorded the areas where the barbarian tribes gathered. They were all at the edge of the oasis and desert. They had to pass through a large desert barbarian tribe. Lei Xingfeng also looked at it. He said, you guys are Majin City to defend against this barbarian tribe, right? Jean Depang smiled and said, yes, it's this tribe. They have at least 600 to 700 barbarian warriors. In fact, the barbarians, even the children and the elderly, are very terrifying. Fortunately, Majin City has a tacit understanding with them. If they don't attack us, we won't be able to eliminate them. Of course, if we take the initiative to step into their territory, they have the right to attack us. We won't rescue them, and we can't rescue them. Shi Quan said, oh, you're not honest. You want us to weaken these barbarians. Jean Depang said, I don't dare to have such thoughts. I'm just pointing out 2 ways to reach Stellar Night Fortress. This was a typical overt scheme. Everything was on the table, and it was up to you to choose. If he took the shortcut, he would definitely clash with the barbarians. If he took the longer route, he wouldn't lose anything. Old Man Thunderstorm nodded and said, this little guy is quite smart. Jean Depang had a simple and honest look. He stared with his pair of innocent little eyes and said, I'm just a foodie. How can I be smart? Alas, I also hope I'm smart. Otherwise, I'll always be at a disadvantage. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. This guy did look simple and honest, but no one believed that he was honest. This fatty shrewdness was hidden in his fat body. If they were careless, they would be betrayed by him. Old Man Thunderstorm said, we'll take the shortcut. He didn't care about the barbarians. If they dared to block the way, he would just kill them. It was also a good opportunity to train Lei Xingfeng's fighting skills. Jean Depang immediately beamed with joy. He had a cleanup mission every year. He didn't want to eliminate the barbarians, but only wanted to weaken their numbers. This time, he could be lazy and reduce the casualties of his soldiers. He wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. He smiled and said, this road is actually very easy to walk. It's flat and comfortable. There are many ponds along the way, enough to replenish the lack of drinking water. At this time, Jean Depang was very enthusiastic and explained everything he knew in detail. Shi Quan smiled and said, not bad. You know a lot. Jean Depang showed off a little. Of course, although I haven't been here for long, I know the situation here very well. I've explored this road 3 times. It can be said that I can pass through it even with my eyes closed. Old Man Thunderstorm said, so it's like this. Jean Depang was still puzzled. He thought to himself, like what? Old Man Thunderstorm continued, in that case, you can be our guide. Huh? What? Old Man Thunderstorm said indifferently, you can be our guide. What's so strange about that? Jean Depang suddenly panicked. He said this. Old man, it's not that I don't want to, but Old Man Thunderstorm didn't wait for him to finish and interrupted. It's not that you don't want to. Then you do. Fine, we'll ask you to be our guide. You won't refuse, right? A powerful aura directly pressed down on Jean Depang. Jean Depang was just about to explain and decline when the powerful aura pressed down on him. He couldn't speak, and his whole body stiffened. Only now did he realize that Old Man Thunderstorm's strength was terrifying to the extreme. When the aura suddenly disappeared, he almost fell to the ground. He said in a panic, I'm willing. Of course I'm willing. Cough, cough, I'm willing. He almost cried. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. This guy looked like he was the one who harmed you and wanted to thank me. This is really bad. Jean Depang wanted to say that he couldn't leave the camp, but to reason with Old Man Thunderstorm, his brain must be damaged. Although he was fat and tasty, he wasn't stupid at all. He knew he couldn't refuse. He smiled bitterly and said, Old man, you're really overbearing. Old Man Thunderstorm said, You don't want to? Would Jean Depang dare to say no? Not even if he had the guts. He said, Of course I do. His tone was full of resentment. Old Man Thunderstorm spread out his hands and said, You're the one who wants to. I didn't force you. How am I overbearing? Jean Depang cursed in his heart. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, Yes, yes, yes. Old man is the best. You're not overbearing at all. You're kind and amiable. I did it willingly, willingly. Old Man Thunderstorm laughed out loud. Jean Depang shouted, Wei Zhenglong. Wei Zhenglong ran in from outside and said, Sir, what's the matter? Jean Depang said unhappily, Follow me to Stellar Night Fortress. We'll take a shortcut. Wei Zhenglong immediately felt dizzy. He said, Sir, that's the territory of the barbarians. We'll be attacked if we go in. Jean Depang said, Nonsense, of course I know. We'll be the guide. As for the barbarians, there are so many experts here. It's not up to us to fight. Wei Zhenglong said, But what about the barracks? Jean Depang said, I asked you to come with me. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Go prepare some food. We won't be able to find any good food on the way, so bring more. Prepare 10 Santua beasts and give them to me. Remember, don't starve me on the way. Everyone looked at Jean Depang in shock. Their team had more than 10 people, but they only had 5 Santua beasts. This guy wanted 10 Santua beasts, and he had a hidden Luin space. Was he going to be the guide or to eat and play? Jean Depang even apologized. I'm sorry, I can't go without food. Without food, everything is wrong. Don't worry. I promise to take everyone away, so I'll definitely leave well. Lei Xingfeng had a strange feeling. He said, Why do I feel like something's wrong? Old Man Thunderstorm said, What's wrong? Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, I can't put my finger on it, but it's definitely weird. Wei Zhenglong walked out of the tent to organize the supplies. He heard Jean Depang say loudly, Bring my copper stove. All right, bring some charcoal too. We can barbecue meat. Saying this, he chased out of the tent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was this guy planning to take the entire kitchen with him? With Jean Depang going, the happiest person was Lei Xian Yao. She clapped and said, Uncle Depang is going. I have good food. She had never eaten such delicious food before, so in her eyes, Jean Depang was a moving treasure trove. Following him, there would definitely be good food. Lei Xingfeng bitterly smiled and said, Yao Yao, I'll cook good food for you next time. Lei Xian Yao said softly, Brother, are you stupid? If there's free food, why would you cook it yourself? Lei Xingfeng was speechless. This child actually had such thoughts. But soon, he became happy again. This little money grubber was indeed a little money grubber. If she could take advantage of others, she would never lose out. He said softly, Okay, we'll eat Fatty's food, Lei Xian Yao smiled proudly. Chapter 60. This is the way you are leading us. Facing Qi Tian Yao's question, Jean Depang had an innocent look and said, Yes, this is the only way. This is the shortest way. Qi Tian Yao said, Ahead is where the barbarian tribe is. Are you planning to let us pass through the barbarian tribe? Jean Depang showed a simple and honest smile and said, With your strength, passing through the barbarian tribe is a piece of cake, Lei Xingfeng said, Brother Pang, you're using someone else's knife to kill people. Jean Depang laughed and said, Barbarians are not people. I am just using the road, not using someone else's knife. He did not admit it and pretended to be stupid. Elder Thunderstorm did not know whether to laugh or cry. They were indeed not afraid of the barbarians, but they also found it troublesome. It would be best if they did not provoke the barbarians. However, Jean de Peng purposely led them to the front of the barbarian tribe. If they were to walk on this road, they would definitely be surrounded by the barbarians. Even if they wanted to avoid it, it would be impossible. They could only fight their way out. Wei Zhenglong commanded a dozen soldiers to lead the San-Tua beasts. They did not need to fight. They only needed to follow the group. Jean de Peng knew that this group of experts wouldn't kill him for this reason. At most, they would just be annoyed. In his opinion, using the annoyance of this group of experts in exchange for the decline of the barbarian tribe was a very worthwhile trade. So, he kept a smile on his face. No matter who said something to him, he maintained a good-tempered appearance and didn't talk back. Everyone was angry and found it funny. This fellow was a scoundrel, seeing that he was the one who took care of them all along the way, and the taste was incomparably good. Everyone was too lazy to continue arguing. It was just killing barbarians. That was not a difficult thing. Qi Tian Yao's group, Jean de Peng's group, and the group of San-Tua beasts, this group was a big target. Very quickly, the barbarians discovered them. Jean de Peng ordered Wei Zhenglong to lead the soldiers and San-Tua beasts to hide behind the group. He also retreated, standing behind the group with an expression that said it was none of his business. Hongchen could not help but laugh and scold. "Little fatty, don't scheme too much. Be careful not to lose out." Elder Thunderstorm did not care about him and said, "A Feng, you go and kill them." Lei Xingfeng said, "I go and kill them alone." Shi Quan said, "Extermination team, go together. A Feng alone, he cannot block the barbarians' attack." Hongchen also said, "Yin Yin is also going." The old man Lei Bao laughed. "That's good too. You guys charge over together, we'll follow behind and charge straight through the barbarian tribe." Lei Xingfeng nodded, "Go." The more he experienced, the more he felt that his fighting power could be greatly improved. Even if he didn't use Lei Lunli's special skills, just the fighting skills alone, he had countless skills that he could learn. He could even learn them in battle. The barbarians had a lot of fighting skills, and they were all quite good. He learned a few Sansho from the barbarians. Low-level cultivators had to go through a lot of battles in order to grow. When they reached the higher level, they didn't need to fight so often. The main purpose was to cultivate a person's battle awareness and courage. Without these two things, even if you cultivated to the higher level, your battle strength would be much weaker. The weapons here were mostly steel spears, axes, steel rods, and the like. There were also a few large blades, various daggers, bows, shields, and so on. Other weapons were rarely seen. Xian Feng had always used steel spears, but in his heart, he preferred large blades. Especially among the barbarians, there were a few who would use large blades. The blade was like a small door. Even if it couldn't be chopped, it could be smashed to death. Lei Xingfeng flipped his hand. The black bow was already in his hand. He liked to use the bow first, then use the spear to attack. Since he had the hidden Luan space, it was very convenient to carry things. Even more so with the bow, the use of arrows was extremely convenient. Once an arrow was shot, another arrow would appear in his hand, so continuous shooting was easy. Qi Tian Yao took the lead, rushing to the front. Yin followed behind. The rest of the Thousand Lin Masters and Wan Lunsher lined up on both sides, forming an arrowhead. Lei Xingfeng leisurely followed behind. Everyone knew that his bow was special. The barbarians' defense could not block it. Almost one arrow, one kill. The efficiency of killing the barbarians was very high. There were more than 200 barbarians rushing out of the tribe. There was still a group of barbarians gathering behind. Arriving at the entrance of the tribe, to the barbarians, it meant a fight to the death. No matter male or female, old or young, they all took up their weapons. This was a battle of life and death. The distance between the two sides was about 1,000 meters. The barbarians were shouting like a swarm of bees, madly rushing towards Qi Tian Yao's group. Every barbarian was tall. The shortest one was over 2 meters. Their shoulders were broad. Their arms were extremely thick. Every barbarian's face was painted with red and white battle marks. Each of them held a weapon, howling. Their running speed was extremely fast. Their big feet stepping on the ground was not inferior to the crazily running sand-tuah beasts. More than 200 barbarians, charging together, actually gave off the aura of a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses, while the clearing team here, in addition to Lei Xingfeng and Yin, only had a dozen people. The two sides could not be compared at all. Old Man Thunderstorm turned his head to take a look, only to see Jean Depang holding a meat bone in his hand, gnawing on it with all his might. Seeing the old man turn his head, he said embarrassedly before a battle, "I'm always hungry. Eating something makes me feel better." Wei Zheng long hid in the group of soldiers. He was really embarrassed. His senior officer was really embarrassing. Old Man Thunderstorm said indifferently, "You guys better keep up. Hey, let's go." He carried Lei Xian Yao and suddenly rushed out. Shi Quan and Hong Chun helplessly looked at each other. Only then did the two of them rush forward with the sand-tuah beasts. Jean Depang was shocked, hurriedly throwing away the meat bone in his hand, shouting, "Keep up! Quickly keep up! Quick! A group of people rushed forward with 10 sand-tuah beasts. If they could not keep up with the group, Jean Depang knew in his heart that they would definitely be surrounded by the barbarians. At that time, other than himself, it would be hard for the others to escape. Old Man Thunderstorm and the other two speed was extremely fast. If it wasn't for the sand-tuah beasts, they could catch up with the people in front of them at any time. Wanting to overtake them would also be very easy. 1,000 meters was 1 kilometer. This distance, for a practitioner, was a very short distance. It only took a few seconds. Lei Xingfeng's black bow had already started to sound. Chi. Arrows flew out one after another. In an instant, the charging group of barbarians fell one after another. The whole group of barbarians scattered. Immediately after, Chi Tian Yao shouted loudly, already crashing into the group of barbarians. He also held a steel spear. With chi sounds, a few tall barbarians were immediately pierced by him. Yin Yin also held a steel spear. The two spears were like dragons emerging from the sea, crazily killing the barbarians that pounced at them. This group of practitioners attacked with tacit understanding. None of them used Lunli, all of them attacking with brute force. The degree of craziness was even more terrifying than the barbarians. After Lei Xingfeng continuously shot out a dozen arrows. He flipped his palm, keeping his black bow. A steel spear appeared in his hand. He followed the rest of the group to kill the barbarians. After practitioners reached the level of 1,000 Lun Master and 1 Lun Shi, their body strength would far surpass the barbarians. Thus, Lei Xingfeng and the rest battle was very easy, and they were in a charging state. They didn't stop at the same spot. Instead, they madly charged forward like a sharp knife, cutting through butter, quickly cutting through the group of barbarians. Old Man Thunderstorm also charged through the group of barbarians. Only Jean Depang's group was slightly slower. Jean Depang howled, "Oh, fuck, hurry." He couldn't ignore these soldiers and sand-tuah beasts. He took out a huge axe. He could only charge forward to kill. Luckily, the barbarians were already dizzy from Lei Xingfeng's killing. They didn't have time to surround them. This group of people had already charged forward. After continuously chopping down a few barbarians, Jean Depang also charged out. He roared, "Don't stop. Quickly run, quickly, or else no one will save you." The second wave of barbarians attacked. Chi Tian Yao once again brought his people and charged into the group of barbarians. Lei Xingfeng madly ran all the way, killing all the way. This kind of exciting feeling made his blood boil. It was too satisfying. His ears were filled with the roars of barbarians. His eyes were filled with red blood. The Lei Lunli in his body was crazily revolving, giving him an endless amount of power. This wave of barbarians also couldn't stop them. In less than a minute, they once again opened up a path of blood. They had already charged into the barbarian tribe. Chi Tian Yao roared, "Don't linger. Go forward. Go forward. Charge." Even Yin screamed and dashed forward. This woman was also stimulated. Her face was flushed red. Her eyes were wide open. The steel spear in her hand danced, killing people cleanly and efficiently. 3 to 5 groups of barbarians charged out from their own houses. Each one of them didn't care about their lives. The majority of them were elderly and children. Chi Tian Yao roared, "Don't hesitate! Don't stop! Kill your way out!" This time, Lei Xingfeng rushed to the front. He needed to fight. He needed to train. This kind of opportunity was the best. First of all, the barbarians had a hard time breaking through the defense. Second of all, the barbarians had rich battle experience, all kinds of strange techniques he could learn from. If he only relied on shooting arrows from the back, he wouldn't be able to get much training. So he rushed to the front, fighting side by side with Chi Tian Yao. Chi Tian Yao was busy, but he still smiled at him. In his heart, he admired this young man. To be able to take the initiative to rush to the front, it proved that this child had a brave heart. Not everyone was suited to battle. Some people cultivated to the level of Thousand Master Wan Lun Shi, or even to the level of Millwall Master, but they didn't dare to battle, especially not to engage in cruel slaughter. These kind of people would often choose a sect or power to become a disciple's teacher. There were quite a lot of these people. A sturdy barbarian roared and rushed forward. He held a huge axe in his hand. The axe was as big as a mill wheel, flashing a cold light. Chopping down with the axe, he let out a roar. The huge axe chopped directly towards Chi Tian Yao. Chi Tian Yao's figure flashed. The steel spear pierced out. The barbarian leaned to the side. The axe suddenly changed direction, sweeping across. "Woo!" Lei Xingfeng roared. "Be careful. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.